Hello, welcome to episode 77 of Plat Chat Valorant. It's Drama Tuesday, Drama Wednesday. We're recording on a Tuesday, but it's coming out on a Wednesday, I think. So, listen, it's Drama Week. It has just been exhausting.
I mean, it's been
or exhilarating.
Exhilarating. I've never felt more alive in my 26 years than reading Twitter all day.
Scouring the timeline.
Sabrosa clapped back. What did he say? I'm fucking so stupid. Also, we're just cramped in here because Josh put on 10 pounds in the UK. This dude is looking
He's so
absolutely
wide. He's elbow checking all of us.
If you
got my tea here, Josh.
If you thought this guy had a dumpster of an ass before, you should look at him now. It's outlandish, and there's just no space at the table anymore.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Listen, it's been a nice time. I had some time away. Every time I was recording the podcast, you know, I was just drinking a little bit, having a bit of a snack, you know. I'm whining and dining. I'm on holiday, and now I'm back, and it's business time, and I'm going to make everybody play basketball with me every day for like 5 hours, and that way we'll eventually get into form where we can beat Balla next time we go and play against him.
That's not happening.
Yeah, maybe not. There was a video. I mean, if you can remember back to the beginning of the week, if your brain has not been corrupted, turned into Swiss cheese by all of the drama that was happening on Twitter, there was actually a really cool video by the developers that got released. This Valorant roadmap of kind of what they wanted to be doing over the course of the next episode. What the hell is the difference, Bren?
3 acts in an episode.
3 acts in an episode. So
And
they were talking about the next act.
In it, I think, yeah, but also general 2020 stuff, right?
Well, 2022, yeah, because otherwise they'd have to be. I mean, otherwise it'd be a
I
video
don't know why I
about the
keep saying
past.
2020.
Wow.
Theater nerds are freaking out right now with the where's the intermission? Like, what's going on?
This was an interesting video though, because they detailed that they have no plans for a new map or a new agent immediately for the very beginning of the year, and instead they're going to be focusing on what they called setting the foundations right, getting the agent balance in a good position, the map balance, that kind of stuff. And they're still going to be putting skins out there, so I mean, you'll be happy.
Thank God. That's all. Next topic. That's all I need to hear back from the dev diaries.
No, this was much needed though, because what they were saying Act 2 was just going to be containing was it was like a warning to the community in the nicest way, which was like, please don't expect any agents or maps because we need to do maintenance on our game. Like, when you do games as a live service where you're just constantly pumping out content updates, you need to essentially slot away some time where you can do quality of life changes, bug fixing, and in this case they said general like agent balance, I think, was going to be the focus for Act 2. So all the complaints that people have been having about, I'm only seeing Astra being played. Where's Phoenix? Where's Yoru? I mean, it's probably going to be in Act 2, right? Where we see all of those changes happen.
Especially the Yoru rework. They've already talked about that. And, potentially some map changes. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. They also announced that Clash, or a system like it, is going to be in the game for 2022. They said it's on the horizon for this year. That excites the shit out of me. I know you've been talking about it every time we bring it up, Balla, as well.
Yeah, dude, I'm so excited. I wasn't expecting it probably this year, to be honest. I know that Evermore's been teasing it every once in a while, and they've been teasing it, but last time we saw it was a little just like they just showed like pictures of a bracket. Now it's going to be in, and I think they kind of hinted at that in the esports update at the beginning of the year as well, where it was like, we're going to have ways for you to qualify for the pro circuit within the game. But this just confirms it. I'm super hyped.
Yeah, it's going to be dope. I mean, Clash as well. There's a lot of people who don't know what Clash is.
Yeah, go on, explain it.
It's an in-game tournament system, basically. League of Legends has it where over the course of weekends, you can sign up with a team, a dedicated team. I don't know what mechanisms they have in place in League to stop smurfing and things, because as far as I know, people still do it. But in League, they separate it. They have like tiers of within the tournament system in-game. They call it Clash, and you can compete at the very lowest tier, and then you go up based on, I don't know, maybe record as your team. I'm not too well versed in.
I think in Clash it's actually like basically your rank determines
your rank.
Yeah. Okay. So there's not much protection, and that's why it's kind of starting to become a failed system, because there's a lot of smurfing going on in Clash. So I hope that there's a little bit more to it than Clash, because I think Clash is just kind of like a thing that they added to League. It's great. Don't get me wrong. It gives people an opportunity to play organized play, and that is my first priority with this. But I want them to really develop it so that it's a system that they can do anything with. You know, like cash game or cash tournaments. Give bronze players an opportunity to play in an organized structure as well. Everything is an opportunity there.
Why?
You hear that?
Why you like this?
Balla wants something for you as well.
Why you like this?
Yeah, dude, I think it'd be dope. I think even the thing with Clash 2 and the smurfing issue is that it's probably much more apparent after the system's been out for a long time. When the system's new and fresh, people are going to want to try it as intended. They're not going to very cynically immediately go, hey, let's troll the gold players instantly upon release. It takes... You think that'll be the first impulse of people in like Diamond, Immortal, not to do it themselves?
Some people just want to watch the world burn.
Well, those people are sick. Those people are sick and disgusting, and I don't know any of them, okay? Because I only affiliate myself with lovely, wholesome individuals like yourself.
Yeah, which is why we'll be playing
In the gold rank.
The gold rank. Where we belong. Actually, in the platinum rank.
Yeah.
Precisely where we belong.
Yeah. Exactly. People have been telling me for years that I'm just a boosted scrub, so maybe I should go down and roll some bronze games, teach them. No, don't do that. Don't do that if you're thinking about it. Pretty cool, though. It's a decent idea. And one of the things that they were talking about was map redesigns. And it's also something that Angel tweeted about recently, too. So I want to talk about some of the stuff that specifically around Icebox that people are talking about currently, because there have been some changes in the game that have been found via data mining, and we've been talking about it. I mean, I have been beating this drum for so long, I can't even remember when it began, but just the idea of reworking Icebox, if an 8th map is added, taking one out, reworking it, that kind of thing. It just seems to make sense to me. And this is what Angel tweeted about as well, where he's talking about the 8th map. But he didn't know at the time about these data mining changes that were tweeted by somebody called Floxe.
8th map will be released soon.
Well,
I don't think so.
Soon on a cosmic scale, Bren. Yeah. Soon.
Truly within the year.
Yes, I mean it'll certainly be released within the year. They said the next thing to be released will be an agent. After this like dry period, it'll be an agent, and then presumably a map after that.
Right.
But yeah, Angel's just thinking about the future here. But if we bring up the tweet by Floxe, he found some, or they found some data mined changes, and I want to get your thoughts on it, because the last time we saw Icebox changes, it was basically just here's a box. Here's a box, and this. This is a box. This is a box.
Okay.
Also a box.
But
there's lots of little changes.
Talk to me about this box.
I mean, this is yellow on B, right?
Yeah.
With this being changed here. So it's the container that people hide behind. They're making it more, I guess, rather than having the shallow angle where you can swing out as the attack side and you'll be able to see somebody holding back yellow, it makes it have harder angles, I suppose, including this box that juts out there, which means that people can also hold on the bottom side. You know what I mean? And you're not going to be able to be spotted. It just means it's a bit harder, I suppose, to clear in a sense. Or because previously, if you're holding back yellow as a defender and they hard swing you out and you don't have help from B side, like back B side, or somebody rotates, you're just screwed. You're always going to die.
Sorry, just to align myself, orient myself properly here.
Yeah.
We're looking with Snowman.
We're looking with north towards Snowman. Up is towards Snowman, right?
No. The opposite.
No?
Yes.
The opposite.
This is the opposite.
No, because
the bottom side is towards Snowman.
How do you know?
The north side is towards Snowman.
How do you know?
Because
it's a 45-degree thing.
Yeah, we don't know.
How do you know which way it's aligned?
Because the way that the yellow crate is aligned, and you could see it from another position as well, because there's another picture here that shows, I don't know if that's the
one,
but basically it's angled in the way that yellow is, and you can orient yourself based off how yellow is oriented.
Play GeoGuessr, Balla, because I do, and
should I?
Yeah, okay. I mean, if you're able to determine
Ball's getting 5,000 points,
longitude, latitude, or from the direction of the box, then
all right. So, but if we're assuming Balla's correct here, I'm willing to give Balla
bottom is Snowman. So where Snowman goes.
So
bottom is where the site goes.
Think about how the fucking box looks when you're in the game and you're looking at it from Snowman.
But it could be either angle. It's a 45-degree angle. It could be either way. No.
Okay.
So where's?
I'm fine. All right. It's very understandable that me and Bren would have this opinion. Apparently we're wrong. Let's just move on.
Yeah.
So bottom left would be the bomb site as well, right? The spike site would be at the bottom left. So that means that tiny little jutting out piece, you'd be able to play off with a teammate and kind of double swing together whilst, you know, keeping somebody. It would almost feel like graffiti on Haven. This one and done position, but your teammates can play swings off you as you kind of hold against the retake. Is that how you're thinking about it?
I'm just thinking about it being harder to play around as someone trying to hold off of the retake. Like, it'll be a tougher position to play from, I think, post-plant.
Well,
when the site
I think I agree with that.
We got to consider
which
the
is
other changes.
what I think they're trying to establish with this, because, I mean, actual just resident sleeper, wall up, plant B, 4 people behind yellow, because it's just a huge wall that you can stand behind and swing from 2 angles with a lot of safety. The angles are not as safe in this to hide behind from. It's a lot harder to stack like 3 players on that position. Like, your whole team would just be behind yellow.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's what the change is intended to fix, I think, and I think that's what it's.
Well, there are some other changes as well, because also that relies on there being a different post-plant position that you can play from, right? Part of the reason that people play post-plants from yellow is also because the site sucks for playing post-plant positions. So if you look at Floxy's Twitter, I didn't actually give you the link, but just the Twitter in general, they've posted some other pictures, one of which it took me a while to decipher, but I think it's... Oh, there's a video as well, sure.
They're going hammer to content.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Video?
About...
This guy's
oh, there we go.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
Well, let's just have a look at this.
Is this guy designing the map? Like,
They've put it back to a big box at back A then as well.
And yeah, you can see the garage changes.
Mm.
They've got
Okay,
rid of
so
the
they
door,
cut
and
off
they've opened it up here. So the new change is there's going to be apparently, you can't see it because this is like a work in progress that they've data mined, presumably.
Yeah.
But you can see where they toggled it there.
Yeah.
This is how B main is going to be working, where there's a way going in.
I like that.
I thought
That
about the
feels
way
like
this
trained.
worked when I saw it. And you know how sometimes you'll, on Icebox basically, you'll see 2 players pushed up in angles, really close up on the defender side, and they're able to basically just contain both of those areas at once. This stops it so that they could contact in theoretically through the other side, and it's not possible to for 2 people to just lock down the entirety of the
Stop being smug. We already told you we believed you. It was just...
No, I'm going to be smug. I'm absolutely... Nope, I'm being smug.
They're pulling the wall.
America wins again.
They're pulling the whole wall forwards as well.
Oh, that
So
entire
they're just
thing's
removing
coming forward.
space as well.
Interesting. This is such a good video.
Yeah.
This is incredibly good. It's almost like you're getting a walk around the map. But I mean, why are we looking at this, though?
I don't know.
Because they're showing for Yeti.
Ah.
Only Yeti.
Yeah, this is what the
camera.
observers... I mean, the observers do that shot every
They're going to have
single
to
time.
learn new lineups for the ladder.
Oh, it's a
So
ramp.
ramp.
Yes.
Okay.
Smooth edges. I love smooth edges that you can walk up without having to jump. Let's go.
They're putting a red post office at the back of Snowman.
Just a solid box.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it'll be solid. I think that's just...
Are you sure?
Why would they make a big... I mean, maybe, but... Yeah, I mean,
Wait,
maybe. I don't know.
Okay. If this is the case, and I'm assuming that the site is really, really going to be extended or changed.
So,
Because why
look
the
at
hell
this.
is there going to be anything there?
This is... Yeah, so there's a big kind of cutout into the B
It's
side.
like a bus stop.
Yeah, it kind of does look like a bus stop, which it looks like it doesn't have the ability to walk through the bottom anymore, which I think that definitely makes it
Great.
easier to play post-plant positions from there.
Well, it makes it easier to take. You could actually pop flash this angle now and not have to swing all the way around to clear the entire thing. You could take this and be fine just holding that, or you could go farther if you want, but you don't have to go the extra mile to clear this extra space to hold on to that part of the site, you know?
Yeah, and it also makes it much more difficult for the defenders to just timing you and, you know, get rid of all of your utility and dodge your flashes and
Like
all of
ring
that
around
stuff.
the rosy.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Oh, the new box just dropped. Whoa!
boxes?
Oh yeah, the kitchen bar apparently the angle has changed by about 10 degrees, so that's a pretty big difference, right?
What does that? That must
No,
affect
I think it does
something.
make a difference
I don't know what difference
Yeah.
it makes though.
because you can't tuck as deep. Because before you're able to tuck really, really deeply, so you can't clear it very fast. If you're now coming through from kitchen or any other places, you could swing that and not have to worry about multiple things at the same time. You could clear that very fast.
Sure. I don't know what we're quite looking at here. Maybe the
boiler
ramp.
in mid.
Yeah, but how has it changed? That looks the same to me. Normally,
It's smaller, and there's the box and the barrel there, so there's a different angle.
Yeah, the
it
walls.
it's tighter.
Yeah.
It's a lot smaller actually, and the screens is a lot smaller too.
They've
cut that angle off.
that little angle.
Let's go.
That's elite.
Yeah.
Hey,
That
click on my
angle
video.
sucks. The angle from top 410 where you can just see people's feet as they come to retake at bottom
That
boiler.
is so
that
annoying.
sucks.
Nice.
Yo,
Balla.
it's Balla. You made a video about
I
Icebox
pushed my
recently
video.
as well, Balla. Can you give us the
I did.
TLDR? Do you think these changes are desperately needed?
Yes, absolutely. There is no no creativity on that map. I mean, I watched so many damn Icebox VODs to make that video, and there's just like every single cool thing is failing. Every single one. Any mid split, any like cool new plant spot, like it works once and then it never works again because everybody knows how it plays. So desperately needed.
Hallelujah. I'm just so glad that they've listened and changed and are actively
You're
working
welcome.
on changes. Oh, yeah, it was
welcome.
you. Yeah, they saw your video from 3 hours ago and decided to make all of those changes.
You're welcome. What can I say?
Okay. Deep breath, everybody.
Was there anything else in the? No, fuck, whatever. Continue.
Finally.
Take it, everyone. I want everyone to take a deep
All
breath.
bored viewers can finally get excited.
You know, this is probably what David Denis is asking his team to do.
All right, let's get into the fucking drama.
Drama Tuesday.
It's Drama Wednesday,
Drama
everybody.
Wednesday.
All right, I wanted to start with the drama aspect of it because it was just so fucking funny. And I
You
think,
threw my ranked game because you kept looking at Twitter.
yeah, I did.
During
I
the
did.
game.
Oh, the funniest shit was that clip on your stream where there was a TSM fan in your lobby who was really mad that they just lost. That sent me. That was so funny.
It was when they got knocked out of the
probably
upper
a high-viewed
bracket.
clip on Josh's channel.
I think
Really
it's called
close.
like funniest clip of the week when it's not the funniest clip of the week, but it was pretty funny. But
funniest
someone titled
clip
it that,
of the
and it's
week.
like you can't title clips that. Just as a tangent, if you title a clip that, or if you introduce someone as this is
what's
the
up,
funniest guy I've ever
What's
met,
going on?
immediately people are like, is he? Is it the funniest clip I've ever seen? It just sets you up for failure. Is that what it's called? Some telling me you don't believe in. Yeah. There you go. There you go. It was immediately after and when I say immediately, it was within 30 seconds of the match ending of TSM getting knocked out of the upper bracket of the tournament.
Yeah.
And this happened.
TSM lost, shitters. Oh my fucking god, bro.
Oh my god. That was a lot and good.
What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
Yo, what's up? What's
pretty
up?
good.
What's up?
You a TSM fan?
I'm having,
Doesn't
I'm
sound
having
like
an
a TSM.
awful night, bro. I'm having a fucking tragic night.
There's no way you're actually a TSM fan and you're that happy about them losing.
I mean, like, I'm not a TSM fan, but I'm tired of them fucking losing. They just always a fucking lose. They never win.
Let's talk about those pistol rounds.
This is just the Hiko waiting room. I don't know.
So yeah, that was our experience. I think that sums up the. It's like a mixture of Schadenfreude and sadomasochism that just infects everybody when it comes to TSM. If you're a fan, you enjoy the molding. You wish they were
Fans
good.
are so mad at
If
that
you're a
team.
hater, of which there are so many, I'd never use the word hater, but they exist. People love watching TSM fail. Anyway.
Balla just
So I want to walk Kurt through it because Kurt's been working on other stuff and Kurt didn't even really follow this chronologically. So if you've been living under a rock like Kurt, this is what happened. So I wanted to start I wanted to start with the Sabrosa tweet. So this is what kicked it all off, right? This is after the first map that TSM plays against T1. And, I mean, he's quote tweeting Levi being mad about a ping problem before the game even begins.
Yeah, and to be a little extra context as well, this was after they had gotten knocked out of the upper bracket by Pittsburgh Knights. Team people don't really know about or don't respect, you know what I mean? So fans already are upset. We're losing to the Knights. We're losing to Pittsburgh Knights. And they're down in the lower bracket.
Just got Corey and Rossi and we're losing to the Knights.
Unbelievable.
Wasn't this during the match?
No, well,
this was during the match against T1.
Yeah, this was
which
during
was their lower bracket match.
So tweeting during the match.
Oh, well, no, tweeting between map 1 and map 2.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And he tweeted a pretty serious allegation. He tweeted, I'm playing against a team that has their coach typing and probably talking to the mid-game GG 6v5. And so this explodes. Sabrosa tweets, it's okay, guys. They got a warning as a follow-up. This is still before we get into the next map. It's like, to start with, I just want to hear what you guys think about the NA desire to tweet every problem instead of talking to an admin and solving it via back channels. Is it a good thing that it gets the admins to actually do shit, or is it just absurd?
I think every NA player, as soon as you enter VCT, you have to get a microchip implanted into your brain that transmits your every thought to twitter.com. Just an open feed. Just an open feed where every thought just gets publicized to the mass. Now, this is definitely an NA problem. I mean, there's other players that do it in other regions, but I don't think it's particularly healthy or helpful generally. It can be helpful, actually. I'll take that back. It can be helpful in terms of getting shit solved quickly.
Right.
Because you're essentially leveraging your clout on the internet.
Got it solved.
You're leveraging your...
But that's my question, really, Wyatt, is that...
Did get it solved, though.
Is it a symptom of bad administration where the players feel like they have to tweet about it? Or is it pure clout thinking where you go public first and talk to admins second? What's your feeling there in terms of, I mean, like, which comes first, the chicken or the egg in that scenario?
There's no way to...
100%. It's 100% a symptom, in my opinion.
Of the administration being poor?
Well, not necessarily that the administration itself is poor, but that the communication between, like, this should never happen. That he's fucking putting on an Instagram
I love
story.
how not one fucking person. This image is getting shared constantly. Someone rotate it.
Can we rotate it? Can we rotate it on our
stream?
stream?
It getting shared, and I'm just looking at the sideways lol, and just fucking rotate it. Someone.
I just realized while I'm reading it,
I've seen that image 40 times in the past week.
Yeah.
And everyone just keeps sharing the same one.
Because it's funny as hell.
Well, how it
Amazing rotation skills. Thank you, Kurt. Thank you. Yeah, so it's not just Twitter. He went to Insta.
An admin photo of what he's typing in a private Discord where they're actually administering and probably trying to communicate. This is actually in game. But you can't be doing that because then you start flames everywhere. Like everybody's gonna start yelling, and obviously they're like, if something like this message, for example, Riot is investigating, that should be enough. That should be enough to just shut up. Done. Hands off. Let's play the game. Focus. You know,
Balla, do you think so? You think though that it's a symptom? To me, the first tweet feels like it could be a symptom. This Instagram story feels like clout because you putting this on Insta doesn't help move the investigation along. It doesn't apply public pressure. It literally is just telling your fans, "Haha, I was right." That's all that does, right?
Yep, exactly. And the reason why I think it's a symptom in the prior case is just because it happens all the time, and we're still not getting adequate resolutions of some of these situations. Right? Some of the stuff that people have tweeted, we just have no follow-up. We don't go into a Drama Wednesday at all. We don't have any of that information because it just blows into the wind and nothing happens, you know?
Yeah. Well,
that's how I kind of feel like I know that it's a symptom of and everything we saw at Champions.
It may have gone a step too far in the T1 TSM situation though, because Wardell also got on stream and just started saying that T1 were using VPNs to increase their ping and all sorts as well. Which, listen, I can understand if a team's been involved in cheating and you feel like they absolutely were cheating against you, you might suspect at that point that they cheat in a variety of ways and get a bit paranoid about it. But again, this is another instance of Wardell going on a stream and kind of hyping people up about another problem that the NSG guys shut down very fast.
Yeah, the clip is just him saying, is it Wardell saying that they used VPNs to force favorable servers?
Yes.
And then it later came out that it was...
It's just that, essentially.
It's just that, but it later came out that from Nerd Street Gamers, I think, where they said that wasn't the case.
They said a T1 player was using exit lag, which is a really, really common... I mean, players use VPNs all the time in order to decrease their ping via increasing or like more effectively routing. It changes your routing to make your ping better. And that's allowed. That's perfectly fine. That's all above board. And the lobbies don't show the proper ping. And so TSM were getting paranoid and pissed off and just assuming that the T1 guys were cheating in this aspect as well, where the NSG people said, nope, okay, and tried to shut it down early.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you know anything about how Riot admins will be able to see the situation, you will know that they'll be able to check their IPs and whatever with a different VP. Like they would know immediately that something was amiss. You know, so he's speculating something that they could easily check rather than actually getting convinced by an admin or something else, or actually talking to an admin that that's not a possibility.
So then Wardell went back to Twitter and just posted a banger. So I don't know if you got that one, Kurt. The absolute banger tweet, because this ended up just being shit slung back and forth.
Holy fuck! I could not believe it, man. I don't know. Just fuck me, man. Just throwing shit across from each other. Oh my god.
Well, this is just funny. I mean,
yeah, this is funny.
It's just funny, right?
I think this is fucking great.
It's just fucking funny. And then also you've got the other team. I mean, at this point, it just evolved into what felt like a clout war while the investigation was going on. And by the way, the investigation, they paused the second map at 8-4 halftime. So T1 lost the first map. TSM lost the first map. T1 at 8-4 down. I think it was split, the second map.
Yes.
Icebox.
The
sorry.
second one was
they
Icebox,
lost split, 8-4 down on Icebox. Game pauses, tech pause, and then clout war commences for the hearts of the people.
God,
it felt like a propaganda campaign.
I remember also, I was watching your stream during this game, and I remember when the tech pause happened, you just said, like, you know, I have a feeling this isn't just for like a mouse. I feel like this might take a while. You want to play ranked?
Yep.
And you're right.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
You're correct.
Of course it was. So the point of this being, it's a clout war if the other side fires back. And the other side did fire back. Steel posted a response where he basically just said, L plus you lost the first map, plus we should have won the match, basically.
Plus out-off by a 50-year-old. I mean, just 23 and 14 on Chamber.
What was the initial tweet? Because that's a response to another tweet.
The original tweet was a yawning emoji.
Oh, okay.
He tweeted, when they got disqualified, he tweeted, yawning emoji, we won the first map 13-7, which is an incredible thing to tweet when your coach has cheated. Do you not find that to just be an insane thing to tweet?
It is insane, right?
Haha, we cheated and won the first map. What?
Yeah, that is weird.
I feel like I'm in a fictional universe with NA Valorant. It feels like I've been dropped into Bizarro land.
Yeah, it is.
The power of propaganda.
When you put it that way, and you acknowledge the fact that they were breaking the rules of the tournament, yeah, it doesn't really make the 13-7 feel as valid when you do it through rule breaking.
And from Steele's POV, I'm sure he thought, well, David Denis' comments didn't actually change the match.
Yeah.
We still beat you guys fair and square. But the fact is, David Denis was cheating. And so you can't brag about the map where you won via cheating. It's just nonsense. Anyway, at this point,
That list is just miles long.
This is so good. At this point, AKREW put out a tweet. So, pull up the AKREW tweet first, would you? Because AKREW tweet, XSET have just qualified at this point.
Yeah.
XSET boys, you know, they like to celebrate. They enjoy.
Couple bevies.
I haven't seen this tweet. I haven't seen it.
Couple beverages. I saw this and I knew what was about to happen next.
Okay, so AKREW tweets this, and it's AKREW, it's Def, and it's Psycho, the manager, coach, out with the team. And he says a little celebration with the lads. You know, they're all having a fun time. And Def's got his phone in his hands. prepping to fucking wade himself into the clout war. And lo and behold, what does he tweet? Just annihilation.
I mean, he didn't even really wade himself in. He just came in, kind of sprinkled a little fucking hot sauce into the mix and just left.
He didn't just double down, he tripled down.
Oh yeah,
this was
3 tweets.
There was
here.
I mean, they
tweets.
were just he just posted. See ya.
Yeah, but also for clarity, we're not quite doing this chronologically because Def posted this stuff before the
it was right after the first thing that we
before they got
about,
disqualified.
Actually.
Yeah,
this is the second thing that happened. I'm pretty sure.
Sabrosa tweeted, and Def was like, "The fuck are you doing tweeting in the middle of a game? What on earth are you up to?" Because I think his point of view is that even if there is some kind of rule breaking happening for your opponents, you've got to keep your head in the match.
Yeah,
which I think is a pretty reasonable take.
Yeah, keep your eyes on the game, not on your Twitter follower number going up. Yeah, essentially.
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to. Like, if your priorities need to be straight, even if there is shit going on, leave it until after the match.
But I mean, has there ever been a more brutal indictment of TSM as an organization than just stream, man?
My God.
I get it. You don't want it enough.
Oh my God.
Ooh.
That is fucking. Oh, because you know that if there's anything at the back of whoever this is directed at,
it's Sabrosa.
Listen, I'm not going to name
it's directed at Sabrosa.
I'm not going to name any names. It's a little subtweet. Could be anyone. Could be anyone. It's a subtweet. Could be anyone. But you know if they're reading that and there's even a slice, an element of truth at the back of their head, they're fucking punching the air. They're mad.
You watch too much anime, man. Who actually punches the air?
They're punching the air.
Punching the air. Okay.
No one punches the air.
They're mad. And then there was the third tweet, which he responded to.
Oh yeah, he did. It's a response to the initial tweet. Do you think, Balla, what's your read? You're the psychologist of the pro players. Do you think there is an element of truth to that in terms of the
stream thing?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. What? Absolutely. Okay. Def is coming from a perspective, like you already mentioned, where what he would do is shut the fuck up. Wait till there's an investigation, or wait till the investigation concludes, and just stay focused on the game. That's his MO. That's the type of person he is. So for him to go off like that, I mean, he didn't have to go crazy.
Which I know XSET have done. I know that's how they actually operate too.
Mm-hmm.
Is
is
it strictly better, or is it a personality thing? You know what I mean? Like, is it the right thing to do? Is it literally just the correct decision to shut the fuck up and do it via back channels? Or is it like some people thrive off the drama and still continue to be an excellent player, et cetera, et cetera?
I mean, listen, they got the change that they wanted to happen done, but it doesn't mean everyone...
They're the driving... They didn't do anything wrong, you know? Like, they're literally sitting there and saying, okay, hey, these guys might have fucked up. Okay, cool, we start an investigation. If it works, cool, we win the series. If it doesn't work, then we still have to play. Like, you know, so like there's no downside. Maybe if you're on T1 side, there's fighting back as an aspect, but no, if you're TSM side, you just shut the fuck up, man. Straight up.
Okay, so from T1 side, let's move on to our next topic. We've covered the Twitter drama.
Oh, God.
The actual statement.
Oh, God.
You want more Twitter drama?
There's no more tweets?
There was
I mean,
tweet.
people were... The Def tweet?
No, we didn't see the third one, did we?
Oh, go on then. Throw the third one.
It was a response.
It
was a response to his initial tweet.
I don't think it was
Where was it?
So the initial one where he was subtweeting.
Yeah, click on that one.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then
It was a
down
third response to his own
Oh,
tweet.
there it
There
is.
it is. A little bit further down.
Further down. Remember, it's 2022,
That was it.
and it's cool to not care. No, I'm glad we stayed on this topic for a little
Okay,
while.
all right.
Bren. No, thanks for that.
The people like the drama.
They do like
I'm
the
trying
drama.
I'm going for the crumbs.
Connor specifically, because he wasn't on this episode, said, please mention the TSM memes of calling them like team social media. And and I can't remember the others. Team Sewers mid or something. I can't remember.
Sewers mid.
I can't fucking remember the other ones, but people
Doesn't
were
make sense.
people were memeing on TSM more than they were memeing on T1, which is just shows you how much people love to pile on to TSM.
Dude, I'm telling you,
Can we-
TSM are going to
Can we
save
show the
NA
round?
Show the what? Sorry.
The round. The
Sewers round?
I'm gonna
Do
call
you
it
know that
round.
that's the round?
I'm pretty confident it's the round. I mean, the funniest part about all this, by the way, is I didn't watch live, so I'm watching afterwards, and I realized, with all the context of all the tweets, because I saw that live, of course, is that there's a game that has no casters. There's nothing at all, just the watch parties. So there's no context being set on the official broadcast or anything, and everybody's just watching them shoot each other with no sound, basically on top of it. That's hilarious. So, yeah, Kurt, it's in the clip thread, and it's way up. What's it labeled? Pretty sure this is the help sewers round. I say I can link it again
okay.
How have you deduced this?
because you could hear the sound of somebody typing in chat, and there's no other typing in chat that entire time. So
What do you mean you hear the sound?
You heard like the little.
you
the
could
little
hear it after all
message?
this situation happens.
Yeah.
You could hear a little click. Basically, I'm
my
pretty
word.
sure
Audio
It's- so-
diagnostics.
they walk into A here, and then Pony's deciding to whether to come with them, and then he's rotating all the way back through spawn with 25 seconds left. And basically, right about now, watch 7, the raise, right on A main. There's a click right now that says, I'm guessing that's when he types help sewers, and you see him turn around and start to walk back. It's for him to cross in that situation.
Mm.
And then there's
Mm.
another click, and that's the one that's getting YouTube clickbaited. If you like type in what's the round that got disqualified, that's the one. It happens like later on. I'm assuming that's TSM responding, being like, "What the fuck," you know.
Mm.
But I'm pretty sure that's the
Mm.
round.
Yeah.
So, to add some clarity though to what even happened, because we're walking you through. Oh fucking hell, Balla's dead again. If we when we were watching live, we were very much in the dark. It was a bit of a mystery as to what was occurring because
Yep.
the players were saying, you know, the TSM players were saying they were talking to the T1 coach was talking to somebody. We didn't know which coach. We didn't know what was said. There was this rumor that it was help sewers. There was we didn't understand how the TSM players would have even known. We thought, okay, it must have been in all chat. How has that even happened?
There is something just funny about this all also just from being help sewers. Fucking not even that helpful.
In all chat as well. Just in all chat help
Just-
sewers.
Just it
Hey
didn't.
man, y'all have all been there where you type some com in team
I know.
chat. yeah?
I type
It's
shit
just
in
so
team chat
fun.
all the time.
It's just I don't know. You just expect it to be like, you know, execute plan 4C, and it's just fucking. It's just help sewers.
I think this shines a light into how fundamental and basic a lot of coaching is as well.
Though I guess,
know?
yeah, I saw some people saying like which there it is reasonable that it's like stuff could be coded, you know, like
Help sewers is not a code.
Help sewers
Help
is-
sewers means
help sewer-
run a
no.
fake, plan
But,
B,
yeah.
send in the...
yeah, dog through short.
Anyway, T1 issued a statement. So let's take a look at the T1 statement. It said, T1 completed a thorough review of the actions that took place this weekend. A reminder that Riot were the ones that actually conducted the investigation. This is T1 saying they did a separate review of the situation. And they said they'd like to express their regret for violating the rules and communicating outside of pauses. T1 proactively suspended head coach David Denis for this weekend's open qualifier. People were speculating hardcore that before this statement came out, that it was Stunner, the coach that they'd added, where Fraud fucking blew up saying that, why are you adding a former cheater to your team?
I love T1.
Etc., etc. There's always drama with T1, isn't there?
Always
It's
drama.
absurd. Now, this line to me is like, as a company, T1 takes pride in fostering a culture of integrity in both our players and coaches. No, you fucking don't. And don't don't admit and express regret that you broke the rules, and then also piss in my face and tell me that you have a culture of integrity. Don't do both of them. You can suspend your head coach and you can say we made a mistake, but don't you fucking dare tell me you have a culture of integrity. You are actually just taking a shit in my mouth. What? I mean, is that not ridiculous? This statement's a fucking joke.
I mean, no, just the expression that they're just
Pissing in my face.
pissing in your face just killed me.
Do you not think that's absurd?
I mean, don't cheat. And certainly don't piss in my face, though. I'd prefer you don't cheat, but please.
My point there being that it's an absurd statement to make, in my opinion, when you have your coach communicating in game, and not just communicating one-off, but has been doing it for a while. That's not a culture of integrity. Yeah. By the way, you also hired a former cheater. What the fuck does that mean, culture of integrity? What are you talking about?
The entire thing, the spider drama, they're fucking hired literally every single iBuyPower member ever, and that's not. I'm not saying that's bad, but literally, how do you have a culture of integrity? Like,
it is an absurd statement.
I love the proactive though. Oh, this is we're being proactive in suspending David Denis ahead of what? Ahead of him cheating again?
That is so good. Oh, Christ. Fucking hell.
Oh, my dad trying to take any picture of ever.
So
my God.
After the T1 statement, we still don't know what was said, how often, the severity of it, whether the players knew, all of that shit. We don't know any of that after the T1 statement. But David Denis himself put out a statement, a twit longer. So let's take a look at that. And I'm not going to read it all, but I want to read out the important parts, in my opinion. So, first off, he says, I regret my actions, want to explain some context to provide some clarity. Riot has investigated my role in the open qualifier with full access to all of my communication with the players, as in, you know, he's talking to the players via the client, so they have the logs of that. The communication logs show that all the communication I had with players happened in between rounds or to a player who was already eliminated. Let's start with that sentence. All communication I had with players, obviously much more than just saying help sewers once. In between rounds, literally not allowed to communicate in between rounds, or to a player who's already eliminated. They can speak. Your microphone still works when you're dead. The idea that that's the middle ground that he's found between, that he's comfortable with compromising the integrity of, is bonkers to me. That's his starting place, but okay. The communication consisted of encouraging or supportive statements and general reminders. Balla, what's an encouraging supportive statement or general reminder, do you think?
Let's go, guys.
Take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Let's go. I mean,
general reminder is, there's so much in that could be.
General reminder could be so strats based. General reminder could be, make sure you remember to shut down what else up. General reminder could be, make sure you remember to keep B main control, guys. General reminder could be, make sure you eat a banana next round because you're looking a bit tired out there. You know, it spans the entire gamut. One exception to this, he says, was help sewers. Forever a meme in the Valorant community, I'm sure. There are no excuses for this. I can only say that I got caught up in the heat of the moment and did not think before I acted. The idea there being, I assume, that it was the only time he communicated in a live round to a live player who could do something, which I agree is crossing a line, but you've already crossed a few of them to get to that point. So, all right. Then he said, I did not participate in the practice of watching the live stream during a match or relaying any information to the players they did not already have. This being, I assume, a proactive way of shutting down rumors that he might have been actively IGLing for them, like Ascend did before it was banned in Masters 1.
Yeah.
Or
Pipson, G2.
Yeah, the Pips and G2 kind of stuff where
Wow,
he's
this is-
live in the comms with them.
He's talking literally watching the live stream that's delayed
Yeah.
by a couple of minutes here.
Right.
That's
which
what
was-
he's talking about.
Yeah, that was an allegation thrown at somebody in EMEA as well. Balla, do you remember? Somebody that had their phone pulled up and the game was on it.
Oh yeah,
I
it was
also
on
just
the
wanna-
table on the
Yes.
on the camera.
Yeah,
That didn't
forgot
go
about
anywhere
that,
because it's very difficult to prove that kind
I
of
think
stuff.
it ended
but
up being proved it was a Twitter
a
clip.
Twitter clip or
Because you can
something,
go back
sure.
to the timestamps that someone posted on Twitter. But I want to add.
That's happened so many times. I'm just confused now because through CS and Valorant,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know
wanna-
what happened.
add context to. Actually, I think we'll probably be talking about it a bit later.
Okay.
In the next topic.
What
So,
specifically? So I
about
can figure
the
out.
The G2.
no, about the people downplaying this as a potential cheating issue, like watching the live streams and relaying that information.
We will be talking about
Yeah.
that. Yeah, we have a tweet to follow.
I don't want to interrupt
But
your flow.
Just to look at the if we could bring that tweet longer back up again, sorry. Just about what David Denis was talking about, Kurt. He ends it just by saying, that he regrets, and he said he wants to emphasize the players and the other coaches on T1 have all acted with the highest integrity and have worked incredibly hard to bring the team to this level of competition. Now, Riot did not apply any penalty onto the players. T1 have not applied any penalty onto the players as well. But I wanted to ask you guys what level of responsibility you might think a player has if your coach, let's say the coach is just saying stuff like, nice, well done, guys, keep calm out there. Stuff that's more, it's like the kind of thing you could shout from the side of a pitch that isn't strategic. But it's still against the rules, don't get me wrong, but it's that first step down the slippery slope of it. Do you think a player has the responsibility at that exact moment to say, stop fucking talking to us? Or at what point do you think the players start to become involved in an ethical sense in this kind of stuff?
That was a very
I think-
difficult question.
I think that if they ever actually act on information, number one, then they are complicit. But other than that, I think their responsibility should be to get him to stop, like immediately, no matter what it was. As soon as there's a message, especially if it becomes frequent, like maybe one time, Steele gets a DM like, nice job, good round or whatever, like then it's fine. But if he's doing it like multiple rounds, then after a single game, I'd expect the players to shut that down. That'd be my read on the situation, what I would want players to do.
Yeah, I'm coming at it from the angle of they should do that, but also, I mean, in T1's case, the players, I was going to say young and impressionable, but that's not true. Steele is 56. He served in multiple wars, so that's not the case. But I can understand I suppose I can see from, if you're a young pro player, you're not going to actively snitch on your own coach, I suppose. A person who's in a position of power over your role and future of your career, you wouldn't really feel, I don't think, comfortable to call out that kind of culture if you're coming in as a young player.
Also, I think as a player, just generally, if your coach is just giving you positive affirmations, you're not thinking, I'm cheating.
Yes.
You're not really.
I
don't
because
think
in that
that's
case, it
something
just
that
feels
comes
like
to
your
mind.
dad is yelling something on the basketball court.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
"Good job." So,
exactly.
it feels like that. But the problem is, as a player, you should realize that there's the possibility of him accidentally typing in all chat. That's what you should realize. It's what should go through your head when he's DMing you constantly throughout a game. That's why they should immediately shut it down, because this situation would happen. That should be. It would go through my head like 100%. Like, dude, if you ever type in all chat, no matter what it says,
Yeah.
you're opening the floodgates.
I mean, I think that I think in regards to the actual system of timeouts in the game, I think that is also I do think that your mentality is such an important part of the game. And tack pauses are a way to dictate the mentality of your team and influence it in a positive way as a coach. And you're supposed to use your tack timeouts strategically to help your team.
Yeah.
And that should be if you see if your guys are playing really well and sometimes getting ahead of themselves, sometimes you need to take a tack timeout and have everyone take a deep breath. If they're getting really down on themselves, sometimes you need to take a tack timeout and lift the mood up. Like, that is also a part of the game, though. It might not always feel like it, and especially not when you're in the game and you're in the moment and just, you're just getting the message, good shot, well played. You're not really thinking about it. But from the wider look at all of the aspects of pro Valorant play and any pro game, period, your ability to cope with the situation mentally is of the utmost importance.
Yeah, it's pretty massive.
And there's a reason there's tack timeouts. And I think that's part of it. That's when you would want your coach to step in, read the room, and be able to, reestablish a healthy environment for the players to play in.
No, I agree. Let's pull up Curry's tweet about this as well, because obviously with the lack of transparency on the T1 side, until David Denis' tweet longer, there was pretty reasonable speculation by the community that this was even more serious, was a significant amount of mid-round calls or something like that, or even just a single mid-round call that the players should have identified as cheating and were complicit against. But Mitch tweets here something that I think is incredibly true. For a coach to IGL, there have to be a bunch of fuckers who listen. If your coach was actually involved in the comms, and we'll talk about the G2 Pipson situation afterwards, where you can hear him in the voice communication with them, if there are any comms happening mid-round, the players inherently have to be on board with that. Even just by not saying anything, even by not fighting against that, you are saying you're on board with it by continuing in that kind of environment, even if it's only a small level of stuff. And Curry tweets, here's a guy who doesn't understand what he's talking about, fires back at him. But especially this help Sua's tweet, if that had not been typed into all chat, and are we really believing that's the first time it's ever happened?
No.
Or just the first time that
Absolutely
he's been caught?
It's the first time we've been caught. It's because they typed in all chat.
It's got to be, right?
Yeah.
It's so unlikely that the first time you get caught is also the first time you ever did it. And so I think...
Well, especially because he's admitting that he has a culture of typing... What was it? Reminders? Like, that's a reminder, right?
Malice of forethought to compromise the integrity of the games by doing this. This isn't something where he, for the very first time, decided to type something. He's thought about his decisions over the course of multiple matches to type various things to the players, and this time he feels like he went too far. But that's...
Well, even in the statement, he doesn't say the one exception. He says one exception. The wording is very precise from the twit longer of David Denis. If you look at it and the way it's formatted, it gives him avenues of escape if further shit comes out. I'm not even kidding. I was analyzing this twit longer, looking at it, and this shit's been curated by the upper minds of T1's PR team, is what it feels like. I mean, I don't know if that's the case. I'm just throwing out pure slander. I mean, look at it. Learning. One exception to this.
He's read millions of twit longers.
I mean, you're right. It does say one exception to this. It doesn't say
the one. It says one exception to this.
But I think it makes, in this instance, Riot would be able to figure out if it wasn't the solo exception. But what we're saying is T1 have almost certainly been doing this previously. Now, whether that was just saying, well done, nice shot, take a deep breath, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's still against the rules, but there is a different moral line there.
Sure.
It's quite likely this has been happening before, no matter what T1 or David Denis say.
I do want to... sorry, go ahead, Wyatt.
No, go on.
I think that in the past, when there has been situations like this, Riot has specifically put out a follow-up statement after action has been taken that's labeled competitive integrity or whatever, like they did in the 100 Thieves case, where they actually outline the evidence and whatnot. And my assumption, because they haven't done that yet, is that they're actually going back and looking through logs of every single T1 game that they played in a VCT circuit, and they're determining that. Because otherwise, that statement would have been out already that says, this was the only time.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty reasonable assumption to make about it. Let's talk about wider rule sets actually overall, because there's a tweet from Zotek that you linked us, Balla, that I think is pretty good to talk about here. And let's move on to our next topic as well while we do this, which is the overall problem of how to enforce these kind of situations. And we'll talk a bit about G2 as well with the whole pips and stuff. But this tweet is talking about the idea of the rule set in general. Now, for a bit of context, Ascend at Masters 1 EMEA realized that in the rule set, there was nothing about your coach not being able to IGL for you. It was literally just not in the rule set. It didn't say your coach isn't allowed to do that. And so
There was also a clarification. Remember that an admin told them that it was okay because it wasn't in the rules.
Right, exactly. It wasn't just that they chose to do it because it was absent. They sought clarification. Clarification came back, yes, that's okay, and they did it. I don't think that that's bad. I think that that's how you should approach those kind of things. I think that's a fault of the rulebook in that instance. But that's been something they've tightened up in the future. This is a rule that's difficult to enforce, but just completely compromises online games.
Yeah, it really does. So, I mean, as you can see here, this is the coach of Saw.
Sonic.
Sorry.
Yeah, Sonic.
Saying, can we get some clarity? Can coaches tune into the live broadcast during the match? And they're saying the practice is common with team and coaches. An answer one way would be helpful. And I believe, what's the response there? It's allowed in Winter Champs, currently allowed in VCT. So in the rules, there's nothing prohibiting the coaches from looking at the broadcast. Now, people have been defending this, saying, well, that's why the broadcast is delayed. But you can still glean information from a broadcast being delayed by 4 or 5 minutes. You can glean information of setups, where they're playing, what they were kind of like leaning towards with their setups in terms of how they're trying to condition you. There is very useful information you can glean within that. So there needs to be, in my opinion, something put in place within the rules where this is absolutely not allowed. And then the problem becomes then to enforcing it, which I've got my own thoughts about as well, of how they should do it in the online era. But yeah, I mean, I'll let other people speak about this first.
This is something that David Denis specifically said he wasn't doing. And that, to me, indicates that he's aware of people who do it.
Yeah,
I think
which it seems also this coach, I'm not familiar with them, Zotek from Sonics is also, I mean, he says, I know this practice is common with some teams and coaches. So
I know that if you just check the viewer list of the official broadcast, you can occasionally find the names of people. Yeah. The problem is that viewer list is not accurate. It doesn't always, if you leave the chat, if you leave the stream, it'll sometimes still keep your name in there. It's not good enough to use as defining proof or evidence.
Can use it in the Valorant court of law.
Yeah. The fucking kangaroo court of Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah. I do feel, kind of piggybacking off the point I was making earlier about the tech pauses, I do feel that in regards to general coach communication during games, it should just all be 100% limited to taking tech pauses. And I think that coaches calling effective, or not tech pauses, sorry, but timeouts. Tack pauses, not tech pauses, sorry. And I do think that coaches being able to call those pauses at the right time and be able to distribute the information that they want to within that minute, I think that there is a skill in that, within itself. And that's a skill that the coaches need to have, is you have a minute, you've been watching this game, you have to get the important information that you feel the team needs to the team in this time frame, and you are dictating when that time frame is. I think that's just one of the requisites of a good and skilled coach for a team. And I think communication outside of that should just not be allowed in the game right now.
No, for sure.
I don't like personally, I'm not a fan of the coach being the IGL theory or practice. I just don't find that that's conducive to a good game, like generally.
Yeah, people have also been saying that why not just let the coaches, why not open the floodgates and let the coaches come all the time during the matches? Another horrible idea, I think, for a variety of reasons.
Well, just while we do this, let's bring up that tweet from Tanny, if you could. Tanny's HQ, or Tanishk is his name. I don't know why I call him HQ. Go on, keep talking, Brad, because this is a conversation about that.
This is one coach saying disable coach spec during officials for online games.
And then Tom says, why not just open it all up because it's unenforceable?
Yeah, and Tom's saying just open it all up because it's not enforceable. I think this is a really bad idea for two reasons. The main ones being, one, you're prioritizing and giving an advantage to organizations or teams that can have coaches or afford them. It's an unfair advantage. If you want an open circuit, you should not be pulling down even more so the 5 guys who are pulled together as an amateur team who are trying to make it. in my opinion. Because already, yeah, the orgs can have coaches, and that is an advantage. They're calling timeouts. But if you're then giving these orgs the ability to have a 6th player in a server who's calling on a macro sense, it's again a massive advantage.
I don't like that argument because everybody has coaches already, anyways. Even the amateur teams, number one, and also no team that's making it far. The coach is enough of an advantage that no team that's making it far is not having a coach.
Well, there's a couple of teams that don't, right? Rise don't have an active coach right now that's in the server.
Yeah, but they have structure on
Sentinels
top
didn't.
of all that.
But what I'm saying is that I don't think that already if you're building this esports ecosystem on the premise as well of trying to make it so that everybody can compete, you shouldn't be putting in systems in place just because you feel like it's unenforceable. Like, just make it so that all the coaches can come all the time. I also think the second reason is that it detracts completely away from players who are IGLs. Like, players who are IGLs are incredibly valuable, and you're mitigating that value and their impact in the scene when you have coaches that can just come in as a 6th player and come over the top. Those are the two main reasons that I don't think it would be a good idea. But obviously, Tom is suggesting this because it's very difficult to think of a world where they can enforce rule changes where coaches are not allowed to communicate, they're not allowed to watch the streams and things in an online era. Like, it's almost impossible. I think there are some ways around it. Yeah. Like, it's difficult, but in my opinion, if there was extra admins that were hired, whoever on the logistics side, because No Street Gamers are running this, we'll use No Street Gamers as an example. And I would make it a requirement that if you are coaching, you have to stream your POV to a private stream in some way or form. You have to stream your perspective, so you're literally giving a constant record of what you're doing in a given moment. And I would have admins that would audit teams at random intervals, and they would be able to see whether or not the rules were being enforced or not. I know that's not a perfect solution, but it's the only one I can think of that even would be feasible, I guess, logistically. I don't know. It's really difficult to come up with solutions for this problem in the online era.
Sure. I think one of the points too that you've mentioned about, I just want to return back to the IGLing portion there for a moment too. If you take the point of view that I know that Tom and Lothar publicly tweeted about this as well, that the rule is unenforceable, therefore it should not be a rule, which generally speaking does track. The logic makes sense because you can't have rules that are unenforceable. It just creates a slippery slope of people breaking more and more of the rules. I understand the logic there, but if you create a situation where the coaches can talk all the time, you will get into a world where Valorant only tries to pick up coaches who can IGL. And the coaches who will be best will be those who can IGL. The prep and the calling tag timeouts and the making adjustments and the mental game and that stuff will become so much less important than, is your coach able to IGL better than the other coach? Because it's a bigger part of the game that can impact more of the rounds. And I think that is not a scenario where you want to go into, because then you come to LAN and that is a totally different game. I mean, you are playing a different video game entirely. Your team is completely divorced. And you might say, well, that'll incentivize people to prep for the LAN. They won't have those coach IGLs because it'll only work online. 90% of the fucking circuit's online. If you only won everything online and came last at every LAN event, you'd still be getting paid $20K a month in North America.
Wait, sorry. So you're suggesting that you make it so that IGLs online is not, or a coach IGLs online is not possible, but on LAN it.
No. I'm saying if in the world where you had online IGLs, if you take Lothar and Tom's approach, where you allow the coaches to talk all the time, then you are forced to do it at LAN as well. You're forced to just across the board say, okay, coaches are IGLs now. And that's the rule. And you go into that world. And that, I think, is such a fundamental fork in the strategy and tactics, how you build a team, that it's silly to make that decision based on the fact that you can't logistically solve the current problem of people cheating. And I think that's nonsense to take such a dramatic fork in what Valorant is, what teams are, what the identity of the rosters look like in order to solve this issue.
What about a middle point? What if you're able to do what David Denis is doing always? Not doing, I shouldn't say that. Not help sewers, but words of encouragement, let's go, like Pipson was on the video with G2. Those types of things are allowed. But other than that, hack timeouts are necessary for the coach to talk.
I don't like that idea for one reason being that it's very difficult to draw the line between what is encouragement and what is not. For example, if you're allowed to encourage, but you're not allowed to give tactical advice, if you say something like, well done that round, that's encouragement. If you say something like, well done in B main that round.
You guys are so good at B hits.
Yeah, like at that point, it becomes really difficult to enforce even when cheating is obviously being communicated like that. It seems to me a lot easier to have a blanket ban on communications. And the blanket ban, there are ways of getting around it, for sure. Like, if they did regular audits, they could be typing in Discord chat instead.
Yeah.
But to me, the point is, the more difficult you make it for someone to break a rule, the less likely they're going to do it, because it takes additional effort and it makes it a conscious rule violation. And a lot of people are willing to they're willing to bend the rule, they're willing to do it if other people are doing it, but if they're the first one to break a rule, there aren't that many people who'll do that. Most people conventionally stick to societal norms, and if you allow it to erode, people will just go further and further and further. They'll take the little insidious steps, but a big leap, a discrete jump from one to the next, I think people generally are much more averse to doing that. So the rules that you put in place, even if they're not airtight, will help solve this issue. Especially if you slap them with extreme punishments when they get caught.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I wasn't like saying that I want to live in the world that Tom and Lothar are suggesting or whatever. I'm just saying potentially there's other avenues, but additionally, I agree with everything. We shouldn't be trying to change the way that we want to approach the game because people are breaking rules. We should just I don't understand how over and over we're getting into situations where if a referee was just live watching or whatever, if there was actual referees that I knew who were refereeing or whatever, and everybody was talking about it, like if there was for example, let's take the Haven Sentinels Fury game where there was the jump thing and there was a tech pause. Why was that not that tech pause communicated like live on the spot? Hey, we're pausing because we're looking into a thing, and then everybody gets to know what the thing is. We're looking into, it's jumping on top of the box. And then people are, I feel like if it's just open and clear with referees, then everybody would be able to input and solve and actually iterate on ideas on how to not have that happen in the future. But because it's closed down, because refereeing is not seen at all until finally the competitive ruling is announced, we never are able to iterate.
I think part of that is probably because with a 128 team bracket, it becomes really difficult to have those referees monitoring what's happening across the board.
Logistics issue.
But yeah, sure, it's very hard to scale up. But I mean, come on, we've had online leagues forever where disputes are a thing, and you pause the next match until the dispute is reserved, and you have a certain window of time to enter in a dispute, and after that, then you can't challenge something.
But I think the problem there being, if you're playing against an opponent, unless they do that stupid mistake of typing in all chat, you actually would never know that your opponents are cheating against you by having their coach communicate, which I think goes back to Bren's suggestion of having that evidence be recorded and occasionally audited. I think it's a great idea, actually. The solution that I was going to suggest was cameras on the coaches and on the players being a necessity once you get to a certain stage in the tournament. Like, let's say when you get to like top 16, every player, every coach must have a camera on them. You make sure that the coaches are not in the room. You make sure that the coaches are not using their mouth to communicate. Sure, it doesn't help with the whispering aspect, but I think that being logged in the game makes it somewhat easy for Riot to do that job of ensuring there are no whispers going on during a match time. And I think that would be good even on top of your suggestion too.
The more obviously
it helps production too. Yes. I mean, you've got cameras on everybody. It's not like a webcam is a barrier to entry in the top 16 of VCT. I think there are definitely things to do.
I think those are both good ideas.
Another suggestion as well I was cooking up is leveraging the fact that obviously the Valorant dev team care a lot about the esports side of things. They're willing to put in changes and work on things as seen from the observer changes and various aspects like the HUD as well being improved. You could work with the dev team in some manner of speaking as well in making sure that the coach slot is locked down, I imagine, within the communication channels.
It is already locked down. You can't use team chat while you're in the coach slot. So they've already thought about that. But you can whisper and use all chat. All chat, obviously, I mean, that would just be ridiculous for you to be trying to cheat in all chat. But
the whisper function,
the whispering aspect, I mean, perhaps, whispering potentially should be taken away from people in the coach slot.
That comes from a position of complete ignorance of not knowing how the game is programmed or ran in terms of that system. But you have the option of proposing an additional solution, or not even. I'm not going to say solution, but the more obstacles you throw up in front of this problem, the less likely people are to break the rule in the first place.
And these are all going to sound bad for, like, for example, can we just bring back up the Tanny tweet? Because he's a coach. A coach called Salah responded to him as well, saying, this just makes things way worse for coaches. We're going backwards here if you disable the coach slot. But the point is, I think, Boo and Salah, they're responding like, this would just take us back a year. But Tanny's point is that that's the coach's fault for cheating. And you've seen it in Counter-Strike. I don't know how people can't learn the same lessons from an extremely similar game. If you cheat, and if rules become unenforceable, if the coaching position becomes a place where you can get access to crazy info and help your team in ways, if there's bugs, if you abuse that thing, the developer's going to take it away from you. They're going to take it away. If you can't abide by the rules, if you keep breaking them, if you keep finding ways around it, you're just fucking it for everybody else. And it will get to an extraordinary level if it keeps happening. At the moment, it's pretty mild because there really aren't that many barriers in place. But you can see even by such an extreme example being extreme solution being floated, that it's going to be harmful for the scene if it continues.
Yeah, can you pull up the Elma Putty tweet? I posted it later, Kurt. It's literally a coach who has coached in CS and literally just left CS. And in CS, the reaction from Valve is straight up at majors. Coaches can't jump up. They can't have anything on their face. They can't do it. Like, it's so locked down. They can't clap. They can't do anything at LAN because of coaches like Hunden and everybody in the past abusing bugs and doing stream sniping and just a bunch of bad stuff. That is the world that we're heading towards if we don't try to stop this type of thing right away.
Yeah. And this is our last thing before we move on. A lot of people are looking at this, the T1 disqualification, and putting the comparison to G2. Nuki posted a highlight clip, I think it was when he got his ace, and Pipson is in the background, I think saying something like, nice, something like that. Directly in the comms with them, as shown by this clip. No, it's all right. We've already talked about it previously, but I'm just setting the context for people. And a lot of people are saying, well, if T1 got punished, G2 absolutely should have been investigated and maybe should be retroactively disqualified from the closed groups that they're currently in. What's your feeling on that? Like, what's the right thing to do from Riot or from the TO's point of view when you have that piece of evidence that the coach is in the comms, you don't have the extra evidence that they were saying anything tactical, but and it also would have to be a retroactive punishment at this point. Where do you think the right line to draw is?
I mean, there should have been just something done then. I thought there was going to be something done then. I suppose not, though. Why is the question?
Sure.
Why did nothing happen then?
I think it becomes much harder when the evidence is outside of the game for them to be comfortable looking into it, doing anything at all, because they probably just don't have anything except potentially asking like Nuki for his POV, something like that. Where, in my opinion, that should have happened, but maybe it was only shadow play, whatever. There's like so many. I don't get why recordings are not required by every single player, and that's the type of stuff that we should have been doing forever, that you could always requisition if there is a dispute. You know, all the stuff that you guys are saying, recording the cams, all that stuff should be done and easily able to be accessed retroactively. You should actually have to upload on online games, upload your stuff before anything has happened.
Sure. Yeah. No, I agree with that. Do you think there's any room for a retroactive kind of thing? To me, I mean, obviously there should have been something happening at the time. They qualified. I think they qualified the second time through,
they failed that qualifier and then qualified the next time. that doesn't mean that he wasn't doing it still.
Exactly.
Because shit didn't happen. Retro. I mean, I agree with Balla. I don't see how you could do that retroactively, and then they could ask Nookie, and then he could have just hit the shadow play and recorded the last minute of his game. So it's not even necessarily that they have POVs.
But already he was breaking a rule by being in communication with them during a round anyway, right?
Yeah.
The question also becomes, where do you draw the line in terms of, does it have to actually be something they believe impacts the round? Does it have to be something that they believe was acted upon or was tactical or something like that? I don't think it should be. I think it should just be blanket ban on communication. And
again, is it just they turn over that game? I mean,
which doesn't make a difference.
Lost. They were out.
Yeah.
Because it was T1 that they did the.
I think
David
we should
Denis
ask that question again once we see if there's anything happening to T1.
Sure.
Like if there's further Riot punishment, or if Riot decides, not T1, that David Denis is banned for a couple weeks, whatever.
Yeah,
I think
then we could ask that again.
Yeah, because if it was Riot that decided David Denis can't coach for this next qualifier, if that was their decision, then I mean, I feel like that gives more credence to there being something done retroactively then.
Yeah, I mean,
for the other case.
Even a suspension of Pipson for the upcoming closed circuit seems like a fairly reasonable punishment for him being in comms with them. It doesn't destroy G2 on a small amount of evidence, but it is a relatively large punishment for a clear violation of the rules.
I don't know why I don't know how the coach slot works, but why don't they force all communication from coaches to go through the game, and then they can just toggle it
because
on and
they could. It's easy to. I mean,
because people would break it.
It is easy to break, but also it is another obstacle.
Yeah.
So maybe they should. Maybe they literally a combination of all of our proposed solutions. I think would be a pretty good way to deter away from this occurring.
Let's move away from this though. It's the end of Drama Wednesday. It's now just normal
Wednesday.
Recap a tournament, talk about some cool teams Wednesday.
That's the boring part.
Viewership. No, the tournament itself was sick.
Yes,
it's actually it was very entertaining. It was scrappy. It was all over the place. It was interesting. Let's start with Version1 and XSET. They were the first two teams to make it through. We saw XSET chugging some beers, happy that they made it through, going out for some drinks with the boys.
Yep.
Let's start there. They end up making it through over NRG and the Guard, who we'll talk about afterwards because they were both the teams that ended up qualifying afterwards too. So I guess in some sense you could say they had the more difficult route, though it didn't look like that at the time. How impressed were you with XSET? I know there was a lot of excitement about Cryo being on this team.
I was excited. I liked Cryo's addition to this team when they announced it as well. I'm watching them. I was following XSET's games as much as I could early on against the teams where they were kind of rolling their opponents, and it was just loose. I suppose when you're a competitor, you want to put all of your energy into the opponents that are going to be giving you problems.
Yeah,
which I think was clear from XSET, because the deeper they got into this tournament with the qualification process, just the sharper they looked as a team. Like you saw the old things from XSET that and love, which is just the really great rock solid fundamentals in terms of how they play off of each other. And then you've also got the layers of strategy that they add on top of it, which it basically turns a good team into a great team. But now they've got this added firepower in the form of Cryo. It's just, they look really, really good. And that this is just the beginning of them, hopefully improving even more, I think, as they play even more together, because it hasn't been too long, I think, since they've had the acquisitions.
I thought they looked better than previously. Straight up, obviously, Cryo has more firepower, but also everybody else on the team, I feel like, has increased their decision-making and discipline by a lot. Like this round specifically, 40 seconds left, this wall comes out of nowhere, and then the Viper roll, that's not something that I would have expected AKREW and the players on XSET to have done before last year, basically. I would not have expected some fluid decision making that blocks off an op in a crucial moment with 30 seconds left. I would expect them to just try to take the duel and either win or lose. But here they, over and over versus the Guard, they're just making such good late round decisions that I'm just like, wow, okay, this team is different.
The the firepower, just to say again, though, the firepower of Cryo and Zekken, holy shit.
Yeah.
Cryo had a tournament, too. He was number one in everything.
I mean that's every tournament he's played.
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, that has genuinely just been every tournament of his like
He had a
light.
1.05 KPR over the course of the whole tournament. I mean, he's getting more than a kill per round, and he just ran over the guard in that second game when they played against when they played him on bind. I mean, he just
Can you filter out
dumpstered
the?
people.
Is there a way to
first
filter
two
out? Oh
rounds.
yeah, you can. Yeah.
It's
That round of 128 and round of 164, or round of 64.
yeah.
Yeah, basically just once you look at the people that made it deep, I mean, he just destroyed. You know, the stats are monstrous. 0.25 first kill per round without even dying very much as the first death as well. Just across the board, a menace, an absolute menace. I'm excited to see how he performs against the absolute elite best in the region. I don't know what the ceiling is like for this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the ceiling for XSET seems like they could absolutely be a top 2 team now, and I think qualify. I mean, with this roster,
Top 2. You're like,
well, it's
for
2. They have
Masters.
2 spots for Masters, right? In NA.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if we're going to talk about that later, but if we want to just collectively just cry for the lack of NA slots this year, just tear ducts erupting with NA losing slots. But yeah, I think especially for the first Masters event, potentially getting into a top 2 spot, yeah, I think that's a very reasonable outcome for this XSET team, and certainly more than ever in their previous roster iterations or tournament attempts. I think they have the best shot of making it into the top 2.
This was just, styling on them.
Looking at their roster and their play, but also just the state of NA overall right now, I think that the conditions are right for them to finally do it. You know, if you're going to buy into like the Sentinels just slowly dropping and dropping, 100 Thieves kind of being in, who knows really where they're at. We just haven't seen them. They have roster moves that weren't, remarkable. Envy off the back of their champions performance. I'm sure Envy will still be good, but I think that it's an open field. I think it's a good chance for them to actually do it. And yeah, I was really impressed with Arten in this tournament as well. I think Arten's he's the guy on the team who has the ability to just make magic happen with the Spectre and just nonsense weapons in nonsense positions, just winning out clutches that he shouldn't. Like he's been winning them so many important rounds. Yeah, he was just damn good in this tournament.
I think he had some rounds that I was really disappointed in though. Like constantly on split default where he's like lurking towards A, he was dying for so many times in this game against the guard, which they didn't have a problem with because they continued to win the rounds anyways. But I thought that was like pretty bad from him. But other than that, like his defensive sides were really good. Out of any player to criticize, I'd actually have Arten as some.
Yeah, I was also, Arten seems to me to be the kind of player that if you ask him to do the normal shit you would expect from a top tier Viper or top tier Sentinel, he's going to struggle with it a little bit, but he will come up with very creative answers to getting value in tough positions. Yeah. He seems like a pretty smart player at being able to like find a timing or play around something in a weird way, and he'll be able to generate you value in positions where you don't expect it. But I do also see what Balla's saying, where you expect, this would be an area where a top tier Viper or Sentinel would open something up, and he just can't because he's not in that funky, chaotic environment where he thrives. I'm not really looking at that as being the ceiling limiting factor, though. I really feel like Cryocell's style of just being able to dominate everyone he plays against, I'm so intrigued to see whether it's still going to work or whether he's going to have to temper that. And I think the group stage that he's about to head into is going to be a really good developmental period for him, where you have a lot of experience against top-level opponents that are going to be better than the people you've been running over in these tournaments. And that doesn't mean he's going to fail. I'm not predicting that. But I think he's going to be limit testing And so he might have a couple of games where he gets whacked, and then he'll, adjust a little bit and maybe find a nice balance. I mean, fuck it, maybe he'll run over everybody as well, but that doesn't seem to be the most likely outcome. I think there'll be a bit of that pushing the limits and seeing what he can get away with, and sometimes looking a little wonky and sometimes running over. And I'm just excited to see where that puts him. Like, how much of just the firepower can XSET use to get ahead? Does that by default put them ahead of everybody else?
You think, when you're saying tempering, you mean because he's going to be tested and not being able to get away with stuff against the group stage teams?
He's going to play, intense.
Okay.
I mean,
because
certain
when
setups, he's like hyper confident, running into an area, opening, entering stuff up. If he starts getting shut down either by taking duels against a star player who's seeking him out, and like, let's say it's a Ye's put on cryo duty and starts shutting him down, what does Cryo do to adapt? Does Cryo have that next level to his game if he can,
Play way too much basketball. Guard Cryo real quick. Strap him up.
But if he finds himself running into trouble, can he adjust?
Okay.
And how often does he even run into that trouble?
I already saw in XS play where they were incorporating Cryo and Zek, and I already saw that kind of fitting them into the team environment, the way they play. Right, because they're XSET, I think, are very disciplined. They are not scared to just have patient holds as well, in particular. But they're the kind of team where the very best teams in the world will have purpose when they do an action. It won't just be a solo player flashing something to try and make a play by themselves. I think XSET do a great job of setting up Cryo to succeed. Like you see here when he's pushing up with a lot of his team, they're using Util, using a dart. They've got the drone coming in now as well, and he's pushing with the drone. Oh, there's somebody in there.
He also bangs net out like a freak as he's running up B.
But that's the scary thing, because here's the thing: there's nothing wrong with that. That kind of firepower is great as long as you don't always lean on it, which they don't.
Yeah. They don't. Yeah.
The maps where they play with when the maps where Zekken plays Raze and they have the double duelist.
Holy shit.
That's some
filthy.
nasty firepower they got.
I wanted to ask, actually, in the case of Zekken playing double duelist on split and bind too, if that actually limits their flexibility. I know he was playing KO on like Freeze in a sense, but for me, I always saw Zekken as somebody who could flex a lot. And I see them leaning more on it than they have in the past. And I wonder if that's going to cost them down the line.
I think Zekken would be comfortable having to play Sky if it was required. I mean, he played a shit ton of it. But I mean, that's another question that's kind of related. I think at the moment, this double duelist look just shits on teams that can't keep up with Cryo and Zekken. And that's another question of like, do they need to adjust if that doesn't work anymore? If you're not getting these wild situations out of them and much more of the rounds end up being scrappy and based on XSET grinding it out, is it better to go for more of a KO or a Sky based approach? I think those are questions though that they have plenty of time to answer. They've got a whole group system. They don't have to finish top two then. They have to get into the playoffs. Yeah.
On the Cryo topic though, like him going up against better teams and potentially getting shut down, I think we actually saw a little bit of that against the Guard on split. Like that was not his best game, statistically, but what he did was still at least get what he needs to get. Yeah, I mean, look at this, 12 and 12. They won 13-3, so that's not the craziest indictment of him, but he was always getting the space that he needed. In a strat that was hit B or something like that, he was always, making that space and giving the room for everybody else. So he did what he needed to do, even though he wasn't necessarily getting the kills too, because his team was still in positions to capitalize off of what he was doing. So I think that is what he will need to do in those games when he's not fragging as hard, and that'll be enough.
Should we talk version 1? Because that was the team that came through the upper part of that bracket, and I thought they had the more difficult route in the sense that they played against Rise. That game I thought was going to be a banger, and actually version 1 just rolled them over. Version
just rolled everybody.
Yeah, new version 1 with Xander.
They went
didn't
through
drop a map
so quickly.
Yeah,
the fastest games. I kept checking back, and I just like, oh, okay, well, they just won again.
It was almost a bit underwhelming.
13-3, 13-6. Well, I mean, they even managed to stop the AKREW Neon on Fracture.
How legit do you think this team is?
They look good. They surprised me, honestly. I don't have the greatest opinion of them because not that I don't think they're good, but because I didn't watch many games of them. when I was following the tournament. I watched their Rise game, and I went back and watched like a little bit of their previous matches, but not much. But in general, way exceeded my expectations, I think, for them. Penny had a great time of things, I think, as well, at least from what I saw, which is good as well, because Penny's one of those players that in this new era of dominant Jett players, Penny wasn't really cutting the mustards. So if Penny's now going up to old form, like thinking, what was it, Reykjavik, when they were popping off, hell yeah. I mean, that looks really good. And of course, yeah, I mean, Xander as well is a great player.
It is.
I think they must have been missing some IGL sauce because they look so disciplined. Like the amount of things that I'm like, holy shit, they're not going to clear that. They're not going to clear that. And then they clear it. I'm just like, wow, okay. And then the amount of times that I'm seeing Penny like stop in a take after he's done his dash, after he's gotten a kill, he stops and waits for his team to catch up. It's so insane. I think Xander's brought them to another level, and he's nuts as well. I mean, the coolest thing out of this entire qualifier was Xander and Cryo, who were literally our duo partners in ranked, and they were both on store before this, get bought out by both these teams, like changing their team in such a drive. Look at this round. Fast C, Penny's actually pushing towards the back of site, and he waits for a second, waits for that dart, and then smokes off an angle so he can clear it while they're also coming through on the backside. And then they recognize that the dart is too shallow, I think on purpose, and they know that somebody could be hiding behind that smoke. Like, and Whippy's clearing him at the same time. That sort of thing is something that I never saw from version 1 before.
No, they looked absolutely fantastic. Also, the early round utility was amazing for being able to disguise which area of the map they were actually taking. They were, you know, when we watch these tournaments, usually you'll see some good execs and some, you know, occasionally there'll be a fake thrown in, but the defaults are not to the level of the Masters events that we watch or the Champions events that we watch, where teams have got really well-structured, well-thought-out defaults. They're conditioning their opponents in the first few rounds and then peeling off and making different adjustments. That you just don't tend to see that in these open qualifiers to begin. And version 1 did that example really well.
Turret contact, shock, like every little layer to their play has something with a grab well to follow up, and then the shock in case somebody's vulnerable. And then they follow it up even more with the rotation coming off of the gamble and a pop flash. Like this is not what you're used to seeing from version 1. It's so clean.
This round in particular was quite painful if you had any expectations of Rise.
I mean, that is just such a hilarious scenario, and they're just made to look like fools, but it's because that setup from V1 was so good.
Yeah.
I mean, they just look foolish, but it wasn't of their own doing. They just walked into the absolute, they activated the fucking trap card, Mirror Force. Just got rolled. Like it was actually nasty. Yeah.
Oh, go on. Sorry. No, keep going.
Oh, no. I mean, what's astounding as well is throughout this, one of the aspects of it that I thought was pretty wild was just across the board how well everyone was playing within this structure, though, too. Like, I thought Whippy was on a pretty, maybe a higher level ever than we've seen him before. He was playing really well throughout this tournament for them. I really like Zelsis when he's playing the KO for them. Just across the board, the structure has put their players in much better positions to actually just play well themselves and have better individual showings.
Yeah, it's and when people say, what's the problem with X team? You know, like the teams that get eliminated from the bracket. When people are saying, what's the problem with FaZe? What's the problem with TSM? That kind of stuff. Version 1 are a great example of what difference a game plan and structure and layers to your setups make, and how the players look so much better because they have that game plan. It's just so obvious when you're watching version 1 now compared to the last time we saw them, how much their game has evolved in terms of the prep work and how much better that makes them look individually. Which team do you think could go further, XSET or version 1? Now, you said XSET might make top 2 NA, so I'm going to assume you still think XSET, because otherwise you'd have version 1 as number 1.
The thing is, though, yeah, but that's like within the kind of like the pool of the top few teams that I think XSET, again, I think what I just said before, if with the current state of the NA scene, looking at the other teams and looking at them, and then being able to play through this next stage. I think that this is definitely the best chance of getting top 2, and I think that they, more so than any other time, could do it. That doesn't mean that if I say version 1 could, that means that they're coming in first and XSET are second.
Right.
But the way I'm kind of seeing this right now, at least looking at the other teams that we're waiting to see, the 100 Thieves, Envy, Sentinels, Cloud9, if we're trying to make a group of the teams that look the most likely to make it, I think you, in that top 2, surely, at least for me, I think both V1 and XSET are in that.
In contention.
Heading into this. Yeah, in serious, they could actually get top 2 contention.
Along
like
with
we're trying to tier it.
Cloud9 and Envy?
And yeah, that's probably what it would be for me.
Huh.
With Cloud9 and Envy. And I don't know, maybe Sentinels too. It's tough. I don't really see it happening with this 100 Thieves roster right now. But that's kind of where I'm sitting with that, like, who could seriously make it theory.
What do you think, Balla, in terms of these two teams? How do you see them matching up against the other competition, against each other if they had played in the bracket?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough question. I personally was more impressed by, like, I guess Cryo in general and XSET in general because of the way that I've seen them grow in the past. But to me, version 1 looked like a completely different team that it's hard to rate them because I don't know whether Xander's going to continue to call like the way that he did. I don't know if those are setups that they actually, have just implemented. I don't know how they're going to look when teams are actually trying to adapt to them because, like, Rise did not look like they were adapting whatsoever. I haven't felt like they were challenged enough for me to trust them yet. So I would say XSET. I'm leaning towards XSET, and it's still wait and see for me with V1, even though I was impressed.
I was very impressed. I'm looking forward to just following Xander and Cryo. I think it's a great storyline for North America. The next wave of talent. The fact that they both joined these new teams changed them and were the first 2 people to qualify. That's absurd. That is just ridiculous. That's a success story. Pay the money, get the results. Apparently, it's pay to win out here in North America. Let's move on to talking about the other 2 teams that qualified. And I've set this topic up as the Guard and NRG have ostensibly taken the 7th and 8th spots in North America. That's what that bracket appears to indicate, is that these 2 teams are now 7th and 8th in NA, at least for this tournament. That's unexpected to me. The Guard, I thought, okay, this is cool. I love that MCE's coaching. They got some cool talent, but I wasn't expecting this result. And for NRG, I know they've been doing well in the tier 2 circuit, but I had people like Rise ahead of this. I was wondering whether, like a T1 would be able to get through, or maybe an LG, something like that, or even AKREW, because they looked really great. What were your expectations for these 2 teams? Did they exceed them? Do you think that this is something they can continue with? How impressed are you?
NRG took me by surprise a little bit, but for the Guards, I don't know. I could definitely see the Guard qualifying in the first open tournament that we saw, like this qualifier even, sorry. I could see that being a possibility because I think they have the makings of what I consider to be necessary, you know what I mean, with a good team, which is structure is the most important thing, I think, when I look at teams. I say it all the time, so much that it's a fucking meme as well when we do the Overwatch shows, but it's true. I think that the coaching structure is incredibly important towards the development of teams and having a good mentality that's tailored to just improving and improving and improving and trying to really piece it all together. The Guards got that. They've got well thought out setups, well thought out defaults as well, and they have firepower in the form of Sire Player, who they empower. It's so nice to see Sire Player being actually empowered compared to when he's playing on T1. Remember when they put him on Omen and he was just hiding in wine for like half a game?
Sure.
Like they know what they've got. They know what tools they got. If you think about it in the form of like, they know where the firepower lies with their team. They're willing to empower it as well. They set up Sire Player to succeed, but that's not the only thing they got going for them. They've got cool ideas behind it. They're not a perfect team by any means, but they're a new team, and I can see potential in that can only grow from here, which is exciting, I think, for them. I mean, I don't know. I'm always down to just watch more top teams in North America. You know what I mean? Especially when they look disciplined like this, because NA as a region overall, they have a very improv-y kind of style, which is very much playing off of each other and adaptations to what's being thrown at them, which is fine. But sometimes you need more layers on top of that, which I think was proved at Champs with the amount of the minor region teams throwing in these trap plays and layers upon layers that were catching out the North American teams.
Yeah, I think for the Guard, there are just so many positive aspects of the team that all kind of come from the macro look. Like the actual structure of the team, the way it was built is all great. And then also one of the first pieces they added being Valen, who is just such a great in-game leader. His calling throughout this tournament was just excellent on both attack and I think on defense. Their setups are really good. They do a really nice job of mixing up their defensive setups, continuing over from the previous tournament that they were in with the Nerd Street G4. A lot more of the same, where they were just constantly shifting setups, playing effectively on defense, empowering Saya player to hold down areas of the map with the op. I think their in-game leading is so good, though, and I think that even individually, Valen gets a lot of big impact frags for the team.
It reminds me of Mini Xander, actually. When I'm thinking about, like, upcoming fragging, smokes playing IGL, I was really impressed with both of them this tournament.
Yeah.
And I think they fit in the same kind of niche of people that are much needed within the North American scene and are going to make big differences to the teams that they play for.
Yeah. Especially for this probably being, as far as I know, I mean, Valen played some tournaments with like complexity and stuff, but this is definitely the biggest result that he's had. And I think in watching these games with the Guard, his leadership, his decisions for the team mid-round on attack is up there with the best teams in NA. I really think he's just that excellent. And also on the individual level in this tournament, I think especially, Net really stood out for me more than in the previous tournament that I had watched. I mean, from the opening round where he just got an ace clutch on like the very first round that the Guard played, I think in the playoff bracket, to throughout the rest of it, just so many moments of being able to get crucial multi-kills defending sites. Dude had a really good tournament.
I love this
very
round.
Impressed.
Here in the pistol, because it's just the retake starts to go wrong a little bit here, but then you just see the fundamentals shine through. And it's the perfect example of Valen just being not only just obviously the guy who's going to be making calls for them a lot of the time playing Astra, but also just bragging out of control. I don't know why Kampeki was sticking that there, but maybe just didn't think Trent had another shock dart. But this is like a round that I don't know. I don't know if they had any right winning this, but they just come straight through, trading instantly. It's I thought it was a great example as well, just seeing it in motion.
Yeah, they're a pretty decent team. What do you think, Balla?
I'm not as excited as you guys are. I think I was very impressed with that.
The check didn't come into your account yet. I got my payment from. You guys get the.
I didn't get to wear the helmet. So, I mean,
we had a coach stream.
Yeah, Ball wasn't on the coach stream.
Balla, we had a coach stream.
This is awkward.
Fuck.
No. Make them pay us for the good comments. No, go on. What do you think?
To me, it seemed like you guys are saying there's structure and whatnot. I kind of agree, especially on defense. But what I was getting from the way that Valen was playing, and I guess calling as well, is that a lot of times he was relying on himself to make plays, not necessarily like, yeah, he calls the idea for his team, but he would always put himself in the most important position, And that's kind of a way that I like. The reason I bring it up is because that's how I sometimes I call. Like in the tournament we played, I definitely was like, hey, let me put myself in this position, and it is the right play. But to me, it tells me that they're not as structured as you think. Because he's not necessarily trusting the rest of his team to be taking those positions himself. That's the read I get. It could be completely wrong. It probably is. But that's why I was like kind of sketch in terms of like, for example, that round we saw earlier where he was like lurking up and caught 3 in the back. That's not necessarily the play that I want Valen to be making. That's dangerous if he's in that position as the controller,
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
I mean, the context of that round was as well, it was a thrifty apart from Valen with the rifle. So, I mean, I do agree, though. Like, your controller player inherently, especially Astra, Viper, whatever, gets more value the longer they stay alive. So that's why you see those players tend to more passive positions where they end up just watching flanks and other things. But I understand
and
your
I'm
point.
not trying to say he has to do that. I'm also looking at Net, for example, and see his type of plays, like on Killjoy and on Chamber and whatnot. Chamber is understandable because he has an escape mechanic, but oftentimes he is making plays off of his own intuition, and that's great. But if that's what's winning them games, that scares me a little bit in terms of how they're actually structured. You know, it's a great skill to have, but I want to see more in terms of them, their original plans working, their original ideas and calls and mid-game calls all come together in a way that is beautiful to watch and also just right. You know?
Yeah, I think the reason that I'm excited about them is because they do have a lot of flaws, the team, but they are such a new team that has a very good coach and an IGL that you can see already understands how the game is supposed to be played. It's that they're not quite there yet. I can see massive growth potential with them. And I think, again, being able to play in the group stage, playing against these top-level teams, they're not even in the pro scrim Discord. They literally are not scrimming tier 1 teams. So it's invaluable experience for them to be able to get into the closed system and be able to have games against these elite level.
What is that? Where did you hear that?
They said it on the interview afterwards. They said,
oh, wow.
they literally said, we're so new, we're not even top 25, so we haven't got into the pro Discord for scrims, so this will be pretty cool for us. And I was like, holy shit, that's mental that these guys have got this good so quickly. So that's the context in which I'm excited about them, Balla. I know that they have their problems.
They didn't even complain on Twitter? This is fucking what? Oh my god, FC, I love you, bro. Holy shit, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I think the players also have, I mean, I don't know, they're endearing on social, not on social, but on the interviews afterwards as well. Yeah. They're just very endearing. Was it Net who was shouting out his mum or something? And Van Silly was like, yeah, shout out to your mum. And I was like, what the fuck are you trying to do, Van Silly? You're trying to, what are you up to?
Van Sussy moment.
Yeah, a bit of a Van Sussy moment. Let's talk about NRG though. NRG are the kind of team that, I mean, we were really excited about them when they first made this roster and put the pieces together.
I've been excited and molding about NRG at different points.
We were like, yo, the firepower. Whoa.
I mean, it's been the firepower has been like the NRG take.
It's like the only thing we've said.
God, look at the firepower, though. They have text, they have Android now. Like, we've been doing that for so long.
Android to NRG should have been one of the top roster moves, but it just wasn't.
Yeah, it just was. I mean, until now, in this tournament, he was playing really damn well. The numbers he was putting up on Chamber, really good. By the way, I love the amount of Chamber that I was seeing in this tournament.
They got like 35, 40%.
And I think Android is one of the players. He's the type of player you want to put on Chamber. And I think it was a good decision of NRG generally to have so much Chamber play be a part of the way that they're approaching the game. But yeah, there were just some big moments for Android throughout this. I think this is a round that he clutched out. Also, FaZe playing a really good tournament. FaZe free from the shackles of TSM, can actually qualify. You'd love to see it. There were definitely some moments where I was very impressed by NRG. And there were other moments where they left me with more to desire, but I overall was pretty satisfied with what I saw for the most part. Like, there was one round that I sent Kurt that highlights my feelings of NRG so perfectly. It's the bind one. If you want to play it after this clutch that comes up here, which is just kind of ridiculous. Nice little run and gun mode. Love to see that.
The game is flawed.
You love to see that. But there's a little bind round that just summarizes my feel totally on NRG. That was in their game against XSET, which they narrowly lost. It was like 13-11, 13-11, or 13-9, 13-11, something like that. It was a bind round with the shower take.
Awesome shower take into Pepega B hit is what it's labeled.
Yeah, and that's just summarized. Look at this take is great. So Som just comes up, taps the orb, baits out the shock darts from BCJ. They sent through a sky flash initially. And the way that they time this shower take here is so good. So they dog to re-clear after waiting for a bit. Som pushes all the way up. As the drone goes, he pushes through, finds the pick, and dashes out. Just a fucking beautiful entry through shower. Then they go recover the orb. Now they're going to go work back into a B hit. And it just goes, and this is where it all goes wrong, Josh. and this is just where it all goes so wrong. XSET have control of Hookah and they have control of Octagon. They're also rotating a player off A to B because there's just been no further play in the A area whatsoever. And then they just try to 5-man waterfall out of Hookah off the flash. They find the entry and they dart close, and then it just falls apart. It just turns to tragedy because they can't get Def out of long. They just had no long control. And somehow Def whiffed that. How are they allowed to win this? How are they allowed to win this? That should not, and then second gets the kill of the day. That should not have been a round one. Def just kind of a few too many fucking, he might have started drinking already. They already thought they won. He was pre-gaming and he made that whiff before they went to the bar. So there were moments like that where I was really impressed with things NRG were doing, and then moments of, we're almost there, guys, one day. But overall, a lot of it is kind of more of the same. Some good things like Texas continuing to play, Initiator's playing a lot of KO, and he's popping off on that. Som looks really good on the Jett role. The roles look good on the team right now. The roles make sense. The chamber is good. The only other weird thing for me on this absolute fucking NRG ramble that I'm going on is that they played Breeze in literally every game. They got to play Breeze and won it in every game except for against XSET. So I would like to see them on more maps, and maybe teams will realize that they're good on Breeze and stop letting them play it.
They lean super heavily into Som and their mechanics and their firepower that we keep mentioning, as a team, because watching them as well, we know that Som can aim, we know that Tex can aim, we know that Android can aim, and as well the rest of the players. I mean, Hayes in the EU, these guys are not afraid as well. They can pull out some clutches in certain rounds. But watching it, I realized that the reason they play Breeze so much is because they play it like old Breeze, and they empower the shit out of Som, where they will constantly set him up to succeed with either contact pushes through halls or setting him up with a flash in mid, because they know he's good for the kills. And that's where the crux of a lot of their kind of plans begin. Like, here's a great example here of what they're doing. And then Som gets a pick. They're setting him up quite nicely.
I mean, Som just ran over Shanks in this game as well. It was a tragedy.
Yeah, I had sent a few. I'd sent a few clips from this Breeze game, and on their attack half, I thought that they were doing some pretty cool stuff though with the pacing of their hits, because they were playing some rounds around either the chamber having his ult up, so he would have the AWP, or Som would have the attacking AWP. And some rounds they would take it really slow and just contact with the AWPs and wait for a pick. And then a little bit later in the half, they started doing some like A splits, like 1 minute into the round. And then they just threw in a round here where they just fast up mid, Som off the ult, set him up to get the kill, little recon top mid, find the openings. Like they were doing some cool stuff with some of the pacing on their approach on attack. But at the end of the day, too, a lot of it just came down to some of these contact rounds. Yeah, but it's working for them in this instance. Also, Rise flopped in this match.
They really did. We'll talk about Rise after this, but it was painful.
But yeah, that's what I noticed from NRG, is that a lot of their plans lied on the kind of just on Som being able to get in space. And even if Som did go down initially, like off the rip, the players are good enough that they can take these rounds into their own hands. But in terms of just the depth of their play, I don't think it's there compared to some of like the top teams, but there's no reason it can't get there.
Okay, well then I have a question for you all, which is the Guard and NRG, in theory, should make it through via their seeding to the playoffs portion. There are 12 teams in the group stage, 4 of them get eliminated, 8 move on. So if you just did it on seeding, the Guard and NRG would make it through, but that's not how it works. Do you think Guard and NRG will be able to hold on to their spots at 7th and 8th, or even push it higher? But my point being, are they going to make it to the playoffs? Will they be able to get good enough wins against the teams that are going to come through in the next wave? Good enough wins against a Version 1, an XSET, a struggling Sentinels or Envy or something? Do they have it in them?
I could see it.
I think one of these two teams is going to not make it. I personally think it's the Guard, but
sadly,
why is that?
Because I was very impressed. Okay, so I only watched the NRG Rise series, so I don't necessarily have a full like grasp of everything because I didn't think Rise was playing well at all. However, like the stuff that you guys are saying is affirming some of the things that I was saying, and it's not that this team is like super structured. They have tons of good strats or whatever. I think more so than anything, they're empowering the plays that their players like to make in creative ways. And in the past, you would see, for example, Som loves to, let's say he loves to push mid on Breeze, like dash up and go crazy. In the past, you'd see that happen by itself with no clearing on elbow, no dart, no flash, nothing like that. But in this case, especially even for like a player like Tex, actually was very impressed with the way that Tex is playing. Tex loves to push smokes, right? In opportune times where he thinks the timing is really good, that he can catch people off in the back. But those were never ever followed just by himself with like himself pop dashing through a smoke. Like on Ascent against Rise, consistently there was an Astra pull with it or a dart getting shot through at the same time. For Som the same way, he was consistently getting darted in perfect positions for him to play through the smoke or something like that. Those types of things make this team a little bit more interesting to me than the others because it's very much still NA focused, like adaptation heavy, a lot of scrimmy strats, but at the same time they're also empowering people in ways that I find that not other teams are doing.
And you
I
agree?
agree. I think NRG are definitely going to finish in the middle of the table. And the Guard, I do think the Guard are really good, but I think they might get tested a bit too heavily by some of the other teams, and they're not going to be prepared to beat a lot of the other teams that are in this pool. I mean, I don't even think that if they played NRG, I think NRG would beat them as well. And I don't see them being able to beat the teams that are already waiting there. So I think that they're going to be on. They could absolutely still make it in. I mean, they're on the line. We're talking about 7th and 8th. But I do
just have to maintain their spot.
They are going to end up on the very edge, I think. And
I think a team like T1 could, like I'm thinking specifically a team like T1 could take them out. And other than that, I don't really think that there's many teams that can consistently play throughout a season to be able to overtake.
I have faith in Guard, personally.
I have faith in both these teams as well.
Oh, you think they both will?
Yeah. To make top 8.
I have faith in God. Yeah. God.
Just because I think we haven't seen the teams that are getting these invites. 100 Thieves, there's a lot of unknowns in the air with them. Sentinels as well. There's a lot of unknowns in terms of how they might perform. Are they going to rebound back again, or are they going to kind of just fall down and other teams going to be again being competitive against them? I don't even want to touch that because I have no idea. But
I'm joking. I have fucking
people are preaching it like the gospel.
Tens is going to be playing on 55 ping as well.
I heard.
Dude,
unbelievable.
We'll talk about that next week. I'm
he
sure.
Doesn't care anymore. If he cared, he would move to Texas. Curious, you want to win, yet you didn't move to Texas. Curious.
There's 8 teams that make it through the group.
Yeah,
and there's going to be 12 teams in total because there's 4 more for the next open qual, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are bringing up fair points about the Guard as well, but just you don't really know if they have what it takes. But they got another week, if not more, until the group stage.
The group stage itself is going to be happening over the course of how long?
5 weeks.
5 weeks.
A long time.
I think the pace of improvement of the Guard in 5 weeks' time, they're going to be a better team than NRG, even if they aren't now. That's my take, anyway. Just based on the rate of improvement.
I want to temper your expectations for how long this 5 weeks is, though, Josh, because I'm pretty sure every team will play one time, once a week. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So that's not that much.
I guess at that point it comes down to schedule, right? If they play against all the hard teams first and the weaker teams afterwards, then yeah, maybe that improvement really, really is important.
That can't make sense.
No, they'll have to play more than that. I think it'll be twice a week, but the point is still yeah. But let's talk about Rise though, because Rise lost in what I would consider to be a pretty significant upset to NRG, and they had been blown out in the upper bracket as well. And that game against NRG wasn't even close. You know, I could see a world where NRG gets an upset and it's a really tight game. I did not have this in my universe. You know, if I'm thinking about the multiverse and how it splits, in my head, we're in a pretty heavy offshoot right now where NRG's 13-3, 13-3 against Rise. They just dumpstered them.
They just couldn't keep up at all on no level of the game. But even individually, so they were just outside of Derek, really struggling to keep up in those regards. I was also on a lot of on a lot of these hits. Is this the one where they were just looking really terrified when they got into the site, and Android is just running around in the back? Well, yeah. Oh wait, no, it's not. I was just. No, but there was another round very similar where they're so timid on these hits, and they're not taking the space. They're not pushing off of each other. They're just. It looks like they're scared.
I love their ideas here. It's just that everything is mistimed. Like they smoke poise so we can wrap around inside of the switch hut.
Yeah,
and then they're gonna pop flash. But Neptune or who is that? Superman peeks before the flash, and then this flash doesn't even get anybody, and then there's no follow-up because there's nobody pushing with it. So it just gets completely picked apart. But their hit worked. They died to a dart. That was bad, but...
Kind of. Yeah. Can we replay the clip here as well, Kurt, once it finishes? Because this map ended with Shanks and Neptune having like 2 kills each. And the community was like, oh, these guys are horse shit. To me, part of the issue is that Rise ended up doing so many late round hits where there's 30 seconds on the clock, here there's 40. And they were forced, Shanks and Neptune, to make mistakes like this, where they're running into NRG, who still keep all of their util, because Rise weren't doing anything for the first minute of the round. And so... you know, everyone's able to keep the KO molly and the recon dart and the sucks, and all of that stuff is up in the final 30 seconds when Shanks and Neptune are being asked to hit the site. And so, yeah, I know that Shanks and Neptune were also whiffing some kills, especially when it came to Breeze. But I do think that this was an IGL problem on Ascent as well, where you run into scenarios like the hit there, where the hit makes sense, but you haven't done enough in the early round to set yourself up for success. And instead, you're just relying on being able to wiggle your way through all of the utility they're throwing at you. And, you know, Shanks gets caught by a recon and is the easiest kill in the world. And your Jett's dead, you're playing a 4v5, you try and do something funky in the post plan. But it felt like that was happening over and over and over again. These late round hits, they just have to run through Cat and face all of the util. And of course, your duelists are going to die when that happens because they're at the front and they're just getting fucked.
There was consistent moments where I think they tried to shift the way that they were calling based around KO, but consistently, like in the game against V1, they were just like not finding the killjoy with the knife, and then they would have to run through, or they would try to ult and the killjoy is playing really far back and stuff like that. And against NRG, where they're playing against Chamber, they just were not prepped, I guess, to play against Chamber yet, because I don't know how many times they walked up mid and that slow alarm bot went off, and they're specifically supposed to be clearing for it. Like they are running the ideas with the intention of breaking stuff, because multiple times they poke Cat, but they just never actually do it. And then they have to run through problems because maybe they run into some, like, you know, text like pop flashing through a smoke before they get to the chance that they can, and they have to back off, and then that utility's still up or something like that. But they just couldn't do what they wanted to do.
It was such a sad series for Derek fans as well, because he felt like the only person with life left in his body.
Yeah. He posted a nice tweet afterwards, though, which I think was the necessary mentality to have off of this, which is just him saying how, you know, don't blame his team as much. They set me up to get these picks and look good, you know? which is the mentality of, you win as a team, you lose as a team, which is what you need. But yeah, something was definitely an off for Rise. Like you guys are saying, I'm not just going to rehash your points, but it felt like there was hesitancy across the board. The calling wasn't good. Their macro sense of a game, their hold of it, what they thought was going on at a given point in time was just not good. And one of the players that they lean on as well, a lot of the times, who is very confidence-based, which is Shanks, wasn't getting the picks, wasn't getting the kills. So, Fortnite.
I love Balla.
There he is. Just
Balla kind of looks like KO at the moment. Oh, there he is. He's back.
Yeah.
Where do you think the future lies for Rise? Is this a temporary blip, or are they going to fail to qualify for the event overall, and we're just going to look at LCQ as a flash in the pan? What's your read? Is there even enough data to get a read?
Flash in the pan, because it was just a steady improvement over that 7-8 month period of last year where they were grinding out the tier 2 scene hard, and just seemed to be on the upward trajectory. Perhaps I've just stumbled on the correlation of the greatest Reddit talking point of all time. If you play tier 2 tournaments, you win tier 1 tournaments. If you don't play any tournaments, you lose.
Yeah.
There's been a whole lot of discussion about that. And perhaps Rise are the greatest example of that theory. I am very willing to believe that this was a bad tournament from them, and that they'll be playing better than they did here in their second qualifier.
Do they make it?
Yeah.
I feel like they have to.
Top 4? Yeah.
It feels almost impossible that they could fail to make top 4 again.
Because this really, a lot of this to me really did just feel like, I absolutely agree with the points that you were making about some of the duelist stats and people harping on them too much, and with Neptune and Shank specifically. But I really think that overall, they're just kind of off.
I mean,
and it happens.
They were.
And so I'm definitely willing to give them another shot. And I think that if they even just play decently well, they're good enough to make the top 4.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, it should be way easier for them with Open Qual 2. And all the teams making it through is going to be...
TSM, T1, Knights,
Yeah.
I don't see a world where they don't make it through.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that it was a blip in the pen. LCQ.
Was.
Yeah. Not necessarily that they're gonna struggle again next qualifier, but their game against Cloud9 to 3-0 they collapsed, and now some of these games they're collapsing as well. I think there's more to it than them looking off one night or something like that.
Yeah.
I think there's something that is causing them to lose what makes them rise in certain games. For example, I think we watched it when we were talking about V1, Neptune missing a KO fragment or something like that, and then they get all locked down. Something like that maybe sends them off the edge and they can't find any more value later on. Like some mental thing is triggering them in a way that they just all of a sudden fall apart. I think that is likely, honestly, in this scenario.
Yeah.
The thing is,
agreed.
I don't want to stay on it forever, but when you say that they're or when you're talking about them being a flash in the pan at LCQ, where were we really rating them from LCQ? Like somewhere within the top 6?
Yeah.
Off the back of that?
Yeah.
It looked pretty good until the finals where, Cloud9 were on a heater of LCQ. But
if we're thinking about the group stage about to come up, I would not be predicting Rise to get top 6, I don't think. Unless the teams, like your Sentinels, Cloud9, Envy, 100 Thieves, flop dramatically. In which case, yeah, they can climb the ladder because these teams have shit the bed. But this Rise to me doesn't look like the Rise that we saw at LCQ. And I'm concerned for the future as well, because they're surrounded in a system where other teams have made big roster changes too.
Yeah.
If we're talking about Version 1 and XSET, they've made big roster improvements, big ones that are going to make a sizable difference. Rise have not. Rise had a roster move that they could have potentially made. There was the whole conversation about Rise maybe swapping Shanks for Baby Bay and going to FaZe and that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But they just want to stick with Shanks, and it doesn't look like a roster move is on the horizon. And so this is the roster you've got moving forwards into the future. I think it's got a time limit.
Do you think they can make top 8 in the table?
I think they can, but I think with the form that they played in that tournament, they are going to drop upset games to to Guard or to AKREW or to fucking T1 or
TSM.
or something like that.
TSM.
If they play that poorly against NRG, I mean, it's not even a close game. It was 13-3, 13-3. They got walloped. So if they just have another day like that, they've potentially thrown themselves out of the group stage if it's against the right opponent or the wrong opponent from their POV. We've been talking a little bit about AKREW and TSM, so let's hit it.
Finally.
AKREW eliminated TSM from the lower bracket. I framed this in a positive direction where we're talking about AKREW, but the community on Twitter framed it in a negative direction where every tweet was just clowning on TSM. I think Lothar tweeted TSM got eliminated 3 times in a double elim tournament, which I thought was pretty good. Sure. That's pretty good. Shaz said TSM's best performance was on Twitter. Also true. And then, what was the other one as well? There was a different one there too. Yeah, and then even Steel piped up.
Oh my god.
Damn, AKREW got a bye too.
Oh my god.
That's rough.
Just people out there.
Do we want to translate that? What does that mean? Just hit a translate button on that.
Can I?
Thank you.
Can I talk about AKREW Stein?
Yeah, do it.
I quite like this team. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not sure how young they are, but it's clear that I don't know. People clown on them, I think, because they haven't been following that much. But they are, they're looking kind of wavy. I don't know. This team, they got some upset potential. They're looking kind of wavy, man. I'm telling you.
They've been slapping tier 2 tournaments.
They've been competing in a ton of shit, and I think it showcases in their play a lot of times as well. Because in particular, I think my first impression of them was this. I think it was this. No, it wasn't this Fracture game. Or maybe it was this Fracture game, but I watched them on Fracture because it was interesting. They were playing Kampeki on Neon, which is cool. But it didn't leave me with like, oh, wow.
It was the one before this. I know which one you're talking about.
I wasn't impressed. It was very kind of improv-y is how it felt. It's adapting to what the enemy's doing, and Kampeki was kind of rolling over them, and it felt like maybe Kampeki could do that on any other role, not just Neon. There wasn't really too many cool things that they were doing with the Neon. But outside of that, when I watched them on other maps, I was like, wow, actually, this is a team that does have some cool, thought-out shit. They do, pivot and adapt and have kind of good ideas of what they need to do on a macro sense in the mid-rounds, in the late rounds. They make mistakes, don't get me wrong, but I think this is a team with a lot of potential.
And also, when we were watching... Myself and Bren were watching that AKREW Fracture game. I think it was the first time they played Fracture in the upper bracket. Can't remember who the opponent was. And they didn't really pull out too many of these set plays. When they played against TSM in the lower on Fracture, there were set plays all over the place. I mean, they had plans on plans that were shitting on TSM. The defensive aggression was really nicely thought out. They had like the Astra util to be able to take control of Astra and Breach util with the 2 duelists to be able to take tree control, and then they've got that like breach ult into their spawn and stuff. They were really creative with it when it came to that low bracket game.
A lot of little setups with the Neon stun as well. Just comboing that off stuff, comboing that off the stock. Yep. Yeah, seeing the Neon was super cool. Like, dude, Kampeki's stats on the Neon for the tournament overall are crazy. Every game they had, he was dropping like 20 plus. His stats ended up being just nasty because of that. Yeah, AKREW are a very cool team. Their players are very versatile. They can all play a number of agents as well.
Yeah, this was really sweet. He's got a sight line to be able to see people who are heading into A halls as well, which I didn't even know that sight line existed.
He jumps up there with an op sometimes too.
Yeah,
it's just so cool. The fact that they take tree with the smoke, and then they don't have to actually use like a stun from Breach or Astra. They could just combo with Neon. They do anyways, just to get full coverage. But yeah, that constantly caught TSM off guard, like a lot. There was so many good plays with Neon that I really, really want to look at more.
It's a pretty big part of running the Neon was the stun. It's something that Jett absolutely doesn't have. If you're trying to do defensive aggression on this map, most teams would think, okay, well, Breach and Jett, you do your flash and dash kind of stuff. But the Neon didn't really seem to be... The mobility aspect of the Neon was what everyone seemed to be talking about. And to me, that wasn't the major aspect. The mobility, sure, like it got them better timings down into tunnel when they were fighting down there a few times and allowed them on these fast flanks. But to me, the like bread and butter of what was going on was was the Kampeki getting value out of the stun, out of following the aggression as a really like aggro duelist, and being able to still get out with the like smokes and utilizing the ult. That's the stuff that really made the difference to me. Is the creative way in which they're utilizing like the stuns to lock down areas. That is quite unique.
I think the wall is strong as well. Just to
Did you
access
see many opportunities where it was cool?
space off the wall. What do you say, Balla?
I was wondering because I thought it was strong, yeah, but I didn't see many opportunities like where that was set into a strat, you know?
They weren't
improv.
they weren't using it. I never thought they were really using it in that way to use it off of a set play. It was more just in the moment. It is effective when it is being used. That's where it was proving useful to me, which is also where like, I mean, it's impossible to not kind of compare it to Phoenix. But when you compare it to Phoenix, it's like that those situations are just not as common. Where her wall is far more powerful to use on the fly in the moment. You send it up, and you get significantly more coverage with it. So yeah, I agree with that point, Josh. Of that being the bread and butter.
Cool team.
The crazy part I think from AKREW is that I don't think maybe in the TSM game they kind of showed their potential, but I don't think that they were playing as good as they were playing in the tier 2 tournaments that they were dominating. And maybe it's pressure or something like that. But for example, Calm, I wasn't as impressed with when even against TSM, but even like on Icebox, for example, there was moments where I'm like, this isn't like normal for AKREW. Like for whatever reason, this isn't working what they're doing. There were many of those types of situations that I think, especially like I was surprised that they lost to whoever they lost to in the upper bracket, just because of moments like that. I'm like, this should be better. And I hope it is for next tournament because I really, really think we would miss out if they didn't make it to the main event.
Yeah, and I think they've got the talent to be able to make it through. I think they're kind of a lock, actually. It doesn't necessarily have to be through the upper bracket, but I just think this team has too much, not just talent, but experience of being able to play big brackets like this and go deep for them not to make top 4 in a big bracket like this the next time around. I'd be really surprised. They just
agree.
They just have done it so many times, getting through. I mean, it's essentially a tier 2 tournament at this point.
With consistency. They've done it with huge consistency. And even throughout this one bracket you saw, you could see the consistency on the individual level. I think Pancakes has just been so good on so many different roles for the longest time now, pre-AKREW. And again, here on Sova and playing Breach on this map, it was just mad consistent throughout the entirety of this run in this tournament for AKREW. I just feel like they're an absolute lock.
All right, well,
look at that shot.
Gooch 107 putting some disrespect on TSM. Oh, he is going at it, isn't he? He's
Gucci.
Yeah, well,
actually, it's Guk 107. Come
on. Let's talk about TSM for a moment then. We've already discussed the drama element, but actually, what was the team like?
Made it right.
Huh?
They made it right.
What do you mean they made it right?
Like they made it. Made it through, right? they did it right.
No, they didn't make it. They got eliminated, but they have another chance. What do you think about them? Well, I felt all right about this team on paper. Looking at it, I was like, okay, Corey, Rossi, maybe this team can do something. I watched them. Oh my god, it's the same TSM.
Yeah, when I first saw it too, I was like, ooh. I was thinking, listen,
New Hopium just dropped.
I've just been writing essays and papers about TSM in my free time and just theorizing, like, but if they run the optimal comp, they can qualify the time. You just need Wardell to play Chamber. And when I saw the Chamber initially, I thought the idea, the comp was cool. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? This is it.
Mm-hmm.
With this comp, Corey as the main duelist, it's a bad time to show that clip. They're going to do it, right?
But I mean, they're cheating here. So.
Yeah, I mean, David Denis said op him
in
the chat.
Op
So Steel did. Yeah.
I am exhausted of
Yeah.
talking about TSM and watching TSM.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about them in a while. This is some
know.
fresh malt.
I know, and I'm still
The
exhausted.
new malt juice just
I mean, it's
dropped.
mainly just from watching them in the open quals because they play so individualistic at times that it's painful because
all the time.
it's painful, man. Like I liked the roster, like specific people playing specific things. I think it makes sense for Wardell to play Chamber a lot for how he likes to play it because he likens to his impact having an op with the ultimate. That makes a lot of sense. But it's like Wardell didn't really learn much from the other players playing Chamber. I saw very interesting ways in which Chamber was being played on maps like Split and other maps, whereas Wardell was playing it, he was getting more passive value out of just playing only for the op. It's like they were only thinking about the op in that capacity. And that's my issue with TSM is that that's the way they think about the game in a lot of capacities. It's quite one-dimensional. It's individualistic at its core. It's not the way the game is played in 2022 that we're living in.
I really feel like the more I watch TSM, they don't know how to win in Valorant. The players don't understand what makes the winning teams win in Valorant. The way that they set up, like the way they have their defensive setups, are so individualistic and don't make sense in terms of the players that are doing the aggressive things. They have Sabrosa playing mega aggro on his own as Sky, like he's a duelist in ranked, and they have Wardell on Chamber, who could be taking first contact, either for info, to lock down a lane, to set up a trap play, whatever. They have him with TPs set up to rotate. He's using his teleports to rotate from like B heaven to A heaven, and he plays passive positions where he's just like the guy that comes in at the end to try and help while someone else holds off a hit. It's not... It doesn't make sense. That's what boggles me, is you can just look at their setups, and I'm questioning why the players and the coaches for this team don't understand why it's not working. You can look immediately at, like, if they just theorized in the server, this is our setup, and then they take a look at any team that does well in these tournaments. I'm talking about like teams that go to Masters and stuff, the teams you really want to be learning from. If you contrasted what you're doing and what they're doing, surely you can see the glaring holes in what you're doing, right? And like some of the reasons why they're not working. But it's the same mistakes over and over and over again. It's not the same agents, it's not the same individual errors necessarily, but it's the same lack of this depth to a game plan and team play. It's the lack of a setup on attack or defense where you're helping each other achieve goals. It just seems to be so absent from how TSM are playing, and it leads me to have no hope in the team, even though they have talent on their roster.
Yeah, go off.
That was pretty comprehensive.
God damn.
Jesus.
I mean, you kind of just, you are simply correct. Is there a chance of them making it through?
No.
You don't think they're making it through?
No, I don't think they're making it through. I don't think so. Listen, I think that they were always going to lose to a Version1, an XSET, a Guard, an NRG, a T1 they were always going to lose to, and AKREW they were always going to lose to. I think they would also lose potentially to an LG.
They did lose to Knights.
I know they beat LG, but I think there are certainly
LG
worlds where they lose to
forgot.
LG.
Yeah.
LG played pretty poorly, and so did TSM, but I just don't think it's happening, man. I feel like it's very unlikely.
Certainly feels that way. Yeah.
Balla, do you think they make it? Do you think they add that little bit of hopium juice? Do we see the TSM fans getting to see them just get walloped by all of the tier 1 rosters for 5 weeks?
Look, I think it's a possibility, to be honest. And that's not like a positive note on them at all. The fact that I say, oh, it's a possibility at all should be bad. Just because they still made it almost. They almost made it here, guys. Like, they were 2 matches away from potentially making it. And yeah, they got the DQ over T1. When they ran into AKREW, it certainly looked like they shouldn't be anywhere close to that, though. So I'm wondering how they even got that far. Maybe the answer is just they got lucky with the DQ. Because maybe if they did run into T1 and it also wasn't looking good, they were getting stomped in certain situations, even on Icebox. Like, it was what, 8-4 on that half?
Yeah.
Yes.
The things that they do in some of these maps don't make any sense. The Fracture, why the hell is Corey playing KO? Like,
Why did
Why
they
is that
pick
guy not
Fracture
playing
into
Raze?
AKREW?
Why did they play? They don't even know how to default correctly on that map, man. And that's like necessary to play that map in a way that you can condition your opponents to stop doing what AKREW was doing, which is push you every single freaking round. You know, I'm confused. I'm confused a lot. Even on Icebox, Wardell on Jett, they're like, oh, this isn't working.
But that was the only time they ran it as well.
Let's
it felt
go
like
play Wardell Chamber again to fix a gap that we. Well, that's not the problem with your Icebox, by the way. Your problem is that you don't have a fucking Sage at all, and you're not putting any stock in the comp to actually counteract the problem of not having a Sage wall. You're not taking a Raze. You're not doing, dude. It's frustrating. And when I watch Corey on that map, I can tell that there's no thought on how to actually implement your players together, because Corey's a new player, and certainly I didn't expect it to come fast, but I did not see him in a single setup with anybody on Icebox out of the 2 matches that I watched. A single time. He just played off angles. Yeah, that's how you play Reyna, but like, come on, there was no way to set him up in a crazy advanced position, no way to flank. Like, he just had to play passive.
Yeah,
and sitting off angles, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, the most advanced their setup got was, let's throw a recon dart to belt, Corey will go pipes, and Wardell will hold an angle, and that was it. And they just did that like frequently, repeatedly. Yeah,
I'm playing double initiator.
Yeah,
on Icebox, and that's it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's tough out here for a TSM fan.
I want them to make it through,
right, boys? It's tough out here for TSM fans.
Listen, if they make it through, fucking viewership, bro. We're watching TSM get smacked for 6 weeks.
TSM for Sentinels.
Come on. No, I'd love
the
them to make
number for the opening match of TSM on the Valorant stream for the round of 128 was crazy. Like over 100,000 viewers for an open qual match. Like that is,
the viewership, if they make it through, viewership numbers would be mad, and they're playing a group stage over multiple weeks.
They're also, I hate to put it like this. I hate to put it like this, but they're a funny team to watch. They're a funny team to watch. They do bonkers shit that doesn't make any sense, and they also have the skill to be able to get themselves out of those situations sometimes. And so it adds this layer of chaos and unpredictability where you're like, what the fuck are they doing? They should be losing. Oh my god, they just hit everything. Yeah, you know, it's
they
fun.
Got the skill. The
it's
players are good.
Kurt, pull up the clip. These are the types of rounds TSM wins. This is exactly the situation you're talking about on Fracture against AKREW. Literally, they take the site. It's like, this round is over, like, because they didn't clear corners after they were surprised. They're like, what the fuck? The site's free. Like, yeah, here it is. They're walking in. They're like, hold up, we can just contact in, guys. It's free. We can contact in. Look at the mini map. The Viper. Oh, yeah, perfect. Calm. They're just like, yeah, site's free. We're good. He's dead. He stays alive forever.
Yeah. As
the rotate comes in, every player on AKREW is finally here. The wall comes down. He tries to go for a Plat, and okay, he's dead. The round should be over, but this happens.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems about right.
Yeah, and it's just an ace for Wardell. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, like, where's the calm in that moment to be proactive with your breach utility to go and clear out the guy up top? Like, I know it's a risk, but you gotta take it anyway. Yeah, TSM, man, you could fucking talk about them all day long. We could have a whole podcast that's only TSM podcast, and it would
be more popular than this one.
It would actually get more viewers than this one.
Please do that.
We just review their tweets all week, go over their best stream clips.
Like Avas is free for that, right? Like he's not busy.
It's gonna be a 3-hour daily podcast every morning.
All right, last topic for today. Let's talk about T1 and FaZe just for a moment, because this was the first time we'd seen them, right? I mean, actually, T1 had played in the tournament that you had been casting. They played against the Guard, but this was the first time we'd seen them in VCT, and you know, it was them playing against a wider range of competition, and also FaZe roster as well. That's something that, I mean, people were somewhat excited about. It looked like nonsense on paper, but a fun type of nonsense. And then they just went out like almost immediately. If we start with FaZe, because I think that'll be quicker. What do you think of this team? They're kind of wild. I mean, shot up playing smokes, Dicey on flex, Baby Bay's Jett. Then they've got Flyer Sova, Larry Banks on Sentinel. Still got JDM as the coach. What the hell is this team?
They look like they need a lot more time to
Like 2023 kind of vibes.
to build the cohesion a
Right.
little bit. There were a lot of moments where it was like you'd have like two players in a crossfire, or like one guy kind of wants to swing, but the other guy isn't really sure what's like. Ooh, is he gonna swing or do I like peek now? And they'd be like, I don't know. Is someone going to use util? Dicey? Can you send a flash? But they're like, it never happened. And everyone's just kind of like, there were just these little moments where I'm like, I don't think these guys are communicating too well right now. And probably because they're a new team and those little things can be improved. There was, Shot Up had some cool, he got some kills.
He did.
And he looked good still with the shooting.
Yep.
And, I don't know. They just look like a team to me that needs more time. What?
I feel like you know when magicians pull the rope out of their pocket and they're like, it felt like you were pulling the polite answers rope. You're like, they need more time. Shut up, looks okay.
Oh
It's
no!
like, it
Is
just
this,
keeps
the, is
coming
this
and coming.
the anti-flash round? Do we have that up where two players went anti-flash at the same time and they both died because neither of them were looking?
That was
Because that was
in the next half. Yeah, I can't remember exactly which round it was. I think they planted.
If you
B.
could find that clip, Balla, I think it's on Reddit.
Oh yeah, it's on.
Do me a favor. Do me a solid. But it's little things like that where I'm like, they're a new team. They need to work on the communication. They have two guys playing anti-flash dying. Like, we just need to get the team play ironed out a little bit. You know what I mean? And then it'll help.
Is there any hope of them making it through?
Yeah. Because
Well, we have to look at
a lot of the
full
other teams
bracket.
are already through. Like, theoretically, the top teams that would be standing in their way in Open Qualifier 1 don't as much anymore.
Yeah, they also went out in the round of 16 though. Or something.
Who did they go out to?
Knights, maybe
Knights, yeah.
Pioneers, somebody
Pioneers.
like that.
Can't remember.
Yeah, I think there's always a possibility of them being able to drag it back, because what I did watch of FaZe, I noted how, like, there's no denying these guys can hit shots and they aim good. You know what I mean? But
You're right.
it's unfortunately the game of Valorant is a bit more than that. So yeah,
They also, yeah.
I'm willing to hold out hope, but not because
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, this is it.
this
They're walking into
cracked
B.
me up, man.
Ooh, Jonah's
Just-
on Sky.
yep,
Here
they see
comes the
him.
flash, guys. Oh no.
Two of them playing anti-flash.
Tragedy ensues.
Two of them playing anti-flash, looking away. But this is clear issues of chemistry, whether or not it's because they've just recently started playing together and they don't have enough time.
That's
The
what I'm
question
saying.
is a week enough time?
No.
Well,
I don't think so.
I don't know if we just cut it, but we do have to. We should look at the full bracket. I don't know if now
the bracket
or
isn't
after we
even
talk
up.
about this, or not the bracket, just like the teams again, and so we can just give our like who's making it through the top.
I mean,
four.
who do you think?
Like look at the previous bracket of this week that just happened.
Right.
You know what I mean?
For FaZe, like I genuinely can see the problem. Like Wyatt is just overheated. He's calling in a high pressure situation that he's never called in before, and he's playing with high profile players that clearly he's trying to control but can't yet, because either they don't trust him or he doesn't trust himself, or he's not making the calls that he needs to be. But it's that. I mean, you guys have said everything else, chemistry, whatever, but there's definitely IGL. And I'm not saying that Fly's a bad IGL at all. I actually think that a lot of the calls that they did make, especially on Haven in that opening game against the Guard, were fine. It's just that the follow-ups were never there because it's just not ironed out. That's it. It's just not.
Yeah. I mean, who do you think is going to make it then? Out of the four?
AKREW.
I mean, I think we've discussed
Kurt,
all the
can
teams
you-
that are in contention, have we not?
You were on the bracket, yeah, the open bracket. Just look at like the lower bracket and the teams that almost made it but were eliminated.
Oh, bit of a scroll up.
Where
There
you were
we
just
go.
at.
There we go.
Yes, that. These are the teams that we want to look at as the teams that could make it.
Yeah, I
through.
mean, FaZe ended up going out to Pioneers
Right.
in the round of, what the hell even is that round? But
lower bracket round 2.
yeah, lower bracket round 2. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at teams like T1, AKREW,
Knights.
yeah, Knights, LG, Rise, obviously. Those are the kind of teams that I've got my
LG went
attention
out
on.
surprisingly early.
Yeah.
Did they go out to TSM?
Yes, they did.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is
and
surprising.
They looked bad in that game, but the reason I'm willing to give LG the benefit of the doubt where I'm not willing to give TSM is that I've seen LG be decent before and have some idea of what they're up to, and so maybe they'll oscillate back in that direction. But it's very possible that neither of them make it through, and it's more like Rise, AKREW, what is it? Rise, AKREW, T1 and Knights, something like that. That would be. I think there's like
a final spot that's kind of flexible to a bunch of these teams that might end up making it on a given day. Like,
I think there might be 3 spots that are flexible. The only one I feel confident in are AKREW.
Yeah,
I really think the other 3 are just
if Rise don't
up
improve
in the air. Teams like Pioneers are real. They're right there too. They're right on the cusp. I didn't get to watch any of the Sonics games, but they were, at least on paper, they were doing better than they've done recently. And they just had a recent roster move as well. So I can't speak to their skill, but they had a good run. I think there's a decent amount of teams in the conversation. AKREW feel like a lock though, and I think I might put Knights up there too for me. Like AKREW, Knights. I think T1 should be able to do it.
I think so.
And
God, Gen.G looked so limp as well, by the way, with Rhyme.
Limp,
I don't want to talk about it for too long, but
No,
they just looked, I mean, they just looked limp, like a lettuce.
Yeah, and I guess Rise, but it feels so up in the air because I genuinely think Pioneers could beat any of those teams except for AKREW. It feels so up in the air. The 2 I feel confident in the most are AKREW and Knights.
It's going to be an interesting bracket. I'm looking forward to the competition that makes it through to the group stage. I think it's going to be a good group stage. I think it's a cool idea. Like, sure, it doesn't have the most on the line. It's not like we're having a tournament every week, but it's going to scratch that itch of seeing everybody play against everybody. So,
yeah.
I'm excited for it. That brings us to the most important segment. And is it going to be drama focused? Is it going to be skill focused? Is it going to be for something else? Who knows? But whatever it is, it's picked by Wyatt. It's Wyatt's weekly award.
This is so stupid.
It's just goes on for way too long.
I did think about it.
You're the most awkward human.
I did think about the drama. Like, who had the best tweet this week? Was it Sabrosa? Was it Rossi? Ooh, Rossi sent shots at Def's head, but it was like some weird video where he was really close up to the camera talking, and it was just kind of awkward. And
that was a weird video. Yeah.
I didn't see that.
See, Bren knows what I was like,
odd.
this is awkward. Dude, move the camera back like a foot and then talk some shit to Def. So I thought about that, but no. It has to go second time to MCE. I have to give it to MCE. Again, I just have to give it to him for the second time. Because this guard roster, the 5 players that they have assembled onto this team to make a roster that could get into the top 8 of NA, make it through this first qualifier, with that good of a showing, with names that people in chat will be typing things such as Humegalol. Trent, Humegalol. You were Humegaloling Trent.
I was Humegaloling.
You were Humegaloling, and then he would hit a 1v2 spray transfer to clutch them into the finals, or to the group stage.
And now I am Humstative Trent.
What?
Huh?
I like the nod, like you're confident that made sense.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but this is specifically for the excellent roster building that has taken place here, and also just from what the players have said in their own interviews and about how he's structured the team and how important he is to the practice and
shout out Nets mom,
but also the structure behind Valen that has made him be able to be a successful IGL this early into his career, make it this deep into tournament. He has done so much behind the scenes, and just the structuring of this roster is so good. Never did I think I would see Saya player like doing really well and in a position like this on a team of this caliber. I really didn't think that. Despite the times on T1 where he looked great, there was just so much of it where it was like, how much of this is his own development of a player needing to go further? How much of this is him being on T1? It was tough at times to even see if he had that much potential, but it's being further realized here. Just a very impressive job and worthy of the second award here, to be honest. You'd love to see some good ground up, honest grassroots labored roster building, just trying people out. Yeah. All right, we'll try out another Sova. Who's this guy? Trent? Who is he? Never heard of him. And then there you go.
And then he's North America's next hope. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure MCA will be very happy to receive the Wyatt Weekly Award for the second time. He also got a tweet from Ye saying that he's good, so I think probably he'll be happier about the second than the first. But you know,
does Ye have a trophy? Wrong. No trophy to give.
I thought you were just roasting Ye for never having won a tournament there. I thought you were like, Ye doesn't have a trophy.
I got 6. He's got 0. Yep.
All right. Well, with that, just roasting one of the best players in North America. Well, I guess Wyatt will send us home. Check us out next week for episode 78. We'll be previewing the actual group stage that's happening that kicks off February 11th for EU and North America. So that'll be a lot to look forward to for next episode. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you next week.